There's something about Irish mythology that pulls at the heart, something ancient, something that whispers to us from the depths of time. It's as if the very land of Ireland, with its rolling green hills and misty shores, holds stories that have been carried on the wind for centuries. These stories are not just tales, but threads that weave together the lives of people, gods, and the very essence of nature itself. In the quiet corners of Ireland, where the forests grow thick and the rivers run clear, there's a sense of magic that lingers in the air. It's in these places that the old stories were born, stories that told of a world where the boundary between the mortal and the divine was thin, almost invisible. The ancient Celts, who roamed these lands long before there were written words, knew that their world was filled with more than just what the eye could see. They felt the presence of beings who lived alongside them, beings who could bless or curse, who could guide or mislead. These beings were the Tuatha Dé Danann, a race of gods and goddesses who arrived in Ireland from the mists of the Otherworld. They were powerful and wise, with knowledge of magic and secrets of the earth. They were not distant or aloof. They walked among the people, sometimes in disguise, sometimes in their full glory. They could bring forth bounty from the land or unleash storms that would tear it apart. To the people of ancient Ireland, the Tuatha Dé Danann were both protectors and challengers, beings to be revered, but also to be respected with a hint of fear. But the Tuatha Dé Danann were not alone in this mythological tapestry. There were others, mysterious, unpredictable beings who lived in the forests, the rivers, and the skies. These were the fairies, the spirits of nature, who were as old as the earth itself. They were the guardians of the wild places, the keepers of the land's ancient magic. The fairies were neither wholly good nor entirely evil. They were simply a part of the natural order, with their own rules and their own sense of justice. To anger a fairy was to invite misfortune, but to honor them was to ensure the land's prosperity. The stories of these beings were not just entertainment for the people of ancient Ireland, they were a way of understanding the world. In the tales of gods and fairies, they found explanations for the mysteries of life and death, the changing of the seasons, and the forces of nature. The myths gave them a sense of connection to the world around them, a feeling that they were part of something much larger, something eternal. The myths were a bridge between the known and the unknown, a way to touch the divine. In those days, the people believed that every hill, every river, and every tree had its own spirit. These spirits were the manifestation of the gods and fairies, and they were everywhere. The land was alive with their presence. To the people, the world was a place of wonder and danger, a place where the divine could be seen in the flight of a bird or the rustle of the leaves. They didn't see the gods as distant figures in the sky. The gods were in the earth beneath their feet, in the water they drank, in the air they breathed. This connection to the divine was not something that was taken lightly. The people built sacred sites, places where the veil between the worlds was thinnest. These were the places where the gods could be worshipped, where offerings could be made, and where the fairies could be appeased. The people knew that to live in harmony with the land, they had to honor the beings who inhabited it. They had to show respect for the ancient forces that shaped their world. But there was always a sense of mystery, a sense that not everything could be understood. The gods and fairies were unpredictable, and their motives were not always clear. They could be kind, but they could also be cruel. They could bring blessings, but they could also bring curses. The people had to be careful, always mindful of the unseen forces that surrounded them. They had to learn to live with the uncertainty, to accept that not everything in life could be explained or controlled. And so, the myths of ancient Ireland grew, passed down from generation to generation. They were told by the fireside on long winter nights, shared in whispers in the fields at dawn. The stories became a part of the people's identity, a part of who they were. They were a way of remembering the past, but also a way of understanding the present. They were a way of finding meaning in a world that was often harsh and unpredictable. Even today, there's something about these myths that resonates. They remind us of a time when the world was a place of wonder, when the divine was not something far away, but something that could be felt in the wind or seen in the stars. They remind us of a time when people lived in harmony with nature, when they understood that they were just one part of a much larger whole. The myths of Ireland are not just stories, they are a reminder of who we are and where we come from. They are linked to a time when the world was alive with magic, a time when the gods walked the earth and the fairies danced in the moonlight. And in a world that often feels disconnected and fragmented, these ancient stories can still bring us together, reminding us that there is magic all around us if only we have the eyes to see it. The winds of ancient Ireland carry whispers of a time long past, when the land was wild and untamed, and every hill, forest, and stream seemed to pulse with a life all its own. In those days, the people who called this rugged landscape home felt the presence of something otherworldly, something that moved just beyond the edge of sight. The Celts, fierce and proud, lived in harmony with this land, drawing strength from its beauty and power. They knew that the earth beneath their feet was ancient, far older than their own stories, and filled with mysteries they could only glimpse. These early people were more than just warriors, they were poets, seers, and storytellers. Their lives were woven together with the land in a way that is hard for us to grasp today. To them, the world was alive, every rock and tree infused with spirit and meaning. The Celts believed that the veil between the physical world and the spiritual was thin, so thin that it sometimes vanished entirely, allowing them to walk alongside the beings that inhabited the otherworld. In the cold, clear nights, when the stars sparkled above and the moon cast silver light on the rolling hills, the Celts would gather around their fires. It was in these moments that the stories were born, stories of gods and goddesses, of heroes and battles, and of the fairies who lived in the spaces between worlds. These tales were not just entertainment, they were a reflection of the world the Celts saw around them, a world where the lines between the human and the divine were blurred, where the spirits of the earth could speak to those who knew how to listen. The Celts were a people deeply connected to the cycles of nature, to the rhythms of the earth and the changing of the seasons. They saw the world as a place of balance, where every force had its opposite, and where life and death were part of an endless dance. This belief in balance, and the interconnection of all things, was at the heart of their culture and their spirituality. They honored the earth and the sky, the sun and the moon, and all the creatures that shared their world. It was in this world of deep connection and respect for nature that the beliefs in fairies and other supernatural beings took root. The Celts understood that the land was not just a place to live, but a living entity with its own will and desires. They knew that to thrive, they had to honor the spirits of the land, the ancient forces that governed the natural world. The fairies were these spirits, embodiments of the earth's magic, guardians of the wild places, and keepers of the mysteries of life. The Celtic tribes were spread across Ireland, each with its own leaders, warriors, and traditions, but they were united by a common belief in the power of the otherworld. This otherworld was not a distant paradise, but a place that existed alongside the physical world, separated only by the thinnest of barriers. It was a place where the fairies lived, a realm of beauty and danger, where time flowed differently, and where mortals could be drawn if they were not careful. To the Celts, the otherworld was as real as the earth beneath their feet. It was a place they could enter through sacred sites, such as ancient mounds, stone circles, or deep forests. These places were seen as portals, where the barrier between worlds was weakest. The fairies themselves were seen as both protectors and tricksters, beings who could bless a crop or blight it, who could lead a traveler to safety or lure them to their doom. The Celts knew that the fairies were not to be trifled with, that they were powerful and capricious, but they also understood that these beings were part of the natural order, an expression of the world's inherent magic. In the lush green valleys and the rugged mountains, the Celts built their homes, small clusters of roundhouses made from wood and thatch, surrounded by the vast, untamed wilderness. Life was hard, and survival depended on a delicate balance with nature. The people hunted in the forests, fished in the rivers, and tended their crops with care, always mindful of the spirits that watched over them. They left offerings for the fairies, gifts of food and drink, to ensure their goodwill and to keep the land fertile. As the seasons turned, the Celts marked the passage of time with festivals and rituals, each tied to the cycles of the earth. Samhain, the festival that marked the end of the harvest and the beginning of winter, was a time when the veil between worlds was at its thinnest, and the fairies were most active. It was a time of both fear and celebration, a time when the living and the dead, the mortal and the immortal, came closest to touching. Fires were lit to ward off evil spirits, and offerings were made to the fairies to ensure their protection through the dark winter months. The belief in fairies was not just about fear, though, it was also about hope. The Celts saw the fairies as part of the cycle of life, as beings who could bring both hardship and prosperity. They believed that by honoring the fairies, by respecting the land and its spirits, they could ensure a good harvest, a safe journey, or a successful hunt. The fairies were a reminder that the world was a place of wonder and danger, a place where the divine could be seen in the flight of a bird or the blooming of a flower. Over time, the Celtic tribes became more settled, building stronger communities, and their beliefs evolved. The stories of the fairies grew richer, more complex, reflecting the changing world around them. The fairies became both more feared and more revered, their powers growing in the imagination of the people. But through it all, the core belief remained that the land was alive with spirit, that the fairies were its guardians, and that to live in harmony with the world, one must respect the beings that inhabited it. Even now, as we walk through the fields and forests of Ireland, there is a sense that the old beliefs are still there, just beneath the surface. The land remembers, the stones hold the echoes of ancient voices, and the wind carries the songs of the fairies. The Celts may be long gone, but their stories live on, a testament to a time when the world was alive with magic, when every tree and river had a story to tell, and when the fairies danced in the moonlight. There is a world just beyond our reach, hidden in the mists that cling to ancient hills and in the shadows that dance beneath the trees. In the stillness of a quiet evening, when the sun dips low and the land is bathed in a golden light, one can almost feel it, this other world that lies so close to our own. It's a place that has captivated the hearts and minds of the Irish people for centuries, a realm where time moves differently, and where the veil between the ordinary and the extraordinary is as thin as a whisper. The Otherworld, as it's known in Irish mythology, is not a far-off land, but one that exists alongside our own. It is a place of immense beauty and profound mystery, a world where the laws of nature are different, where the impossible becomes possible. It is the home of the fairies, the spirits of the land, and other supernatural beings who have walked the earth since time began. This world is both enchanting and terrifying, a place where mortals can be lost forever or blessed with gifts beyond their wildest dreams. In the hearts of the ancient Irish, the Otherworld was not just a story or a belief, it was a reality, as real as the ground beneath their feet. The Celts, with their deep connection to the land and the cycles of nature, understood that the world was filled with magic, that there were forces at work that could not be seen but were always felt. They knew that the Otherworld was not a place to be taken lightly, for those who ventured too close could find themselves caught in its spell, drawn into a realm where nothing was as it seemed. This world was not a single place, but many, each as varied and complex as the beings who inhabited them. It was said to be a land of eternal youth, where the seasons never changed, and where the beauty of the earth was always in full bloom. The rivers ran with sweet water, the forests were filled with trees that bore fruit all year round, and the air was alive with the songs of birds. It was a paradise, but one that was fraught with danger, for the fairies who lived there were not bound by the rules of the human world. They could be kind and generous, but they could also be cruel and capricious, and those who angered them could find themselves trapped in the Otherworld forever. The entrances to this world were everywhere, hidden in plain sight. They could be found in the deep caves that cut into the hills, and the ancient mounds that dotted the landscape, or in the quiet pools of water that seemed to shimmer with an otherworldly light. These places were known as portals, and the Celts believed that those who stumbled upon them at the right time could be drawn into the Otherworld, leaving behind the world they knew for one filled with magic and wonder. The fairies who inhabited this realm were not the small, delicate creatures of later folklore, but powerful beings, as old as the earth itself. They were the Tuatha Dé Danann, the gods and goddesses of the ancient Irish, who were said to have retreated to the Otherworld after their defeat by the Milesians. These beings were immortal, their beauty and power undimmed by time, and they ruled over the Otherworld with a grace and wisdom that was both awe-inspiring and terrifying. But the Otherworld was not just a place for the gods. It was also the home of the spirits of the dead, who were said to cross over to this realm after their time on earth was done. The Celts believed that the dead did not leave this world entirely but went to live in the Otherworld, where they would continue to exist in a state of happiness and contentment. It was a place of rest and peace, where the souls of the departed could find solace, surrounded by the beauty and magic of the land. And yet, for all its beauty, the Otherworld was a place of great peril. Those who ventured there could find themselves lost, unable to return to the world they had left behind. Time moved differently in the Otherworld, and what seemed like a few moments there could be years or even centuries in the human world. There were countless stories of men and women who were lured into the Otherworld by the fairies, only to return home to find that everyone they knew was gone, their lives passed away in the blink of an eye. The fairies themselves were both feared and revered by the people of Ireland. They were seen as guardians of the land, beings who could bless or curse with equal ease. The Celts knew that to earn the favor of the fairies, one had to treat the land with respect and honor. Offerings were made, and rituals were performed to ensure that the fairies remained benevolent, for the consequences of angering them could be dire. There were tales of fairy lovers who would come to the mortal world, drawn by the beauty of a human man or woman, and who would take them back to the Otherworld to live as their consort. These stories were bittersweet, filled with both love and loss, for while the mortal might find happiness in the Otherworld, they would also be separated from their own world forever. The fairies were unpredictable, their motives often inscrutable, and to fall under their spell was to enter a world where nothing could be taken for granted. The Otherworld was a place of transformation, where the boundaries between human and fairy, between life and death, between reality and dream, were blurred. It was a world of infinite possibilities, where the rules of the human world did not apply, and where those who were brave or foolish enough to enter could find themselves changed forever. And yet, despite the dangers, the Otherworld was also a place of hope. It was a reminder that there was more to life than what could be seen and touched, that there was a magic in the world that could not be explained but could be felt in the heart. The Otherworld was the embodiment of the mysteries of life, a place where the soul could find what it was searching for, whether it was love, peace, or understanding. Even today, as the world grows ever more modern and the old ways are forgotten, the Otherworld still calls to those who are willing to listen. It is there in the quiet moments, in the stillness of a forest or the crash of waves on a distant shore. It is a reminder that the world is full of wonder, that just beyond our sight lies a place of unimaginable beauty and power, where the fairies dance in the moonlight, and where the magic of the earth is alive and waiting for those who believe. In the heart of ancient Ireland, when the land was wild and untamed, a mysterious mist rolled in from the sea, carrying with it the promise of change. The skies darkened, and the air grew thick with a sense of anticipation. Every creature, from the smallest bird to the mightiest stag, paused, sensing the approach of something powerful, something that would alter the course of history forever. It was on this day that the Tuatha Dé Danann arrived. These beings were not ordinary people, but neither were they gods in the way one might imagine. They were something in between, ancient and eternal, carrying within them the wisdom of countless ages. The Tuatha Dé Danann did not come as conquerors with swords raised high, but as a force of nature, as inevitable as the tide. Their arrival was not a battle cry, but a whisper, one that rippled through the very fabric of the land, waking it from its slumber. The people of Ireland had heard whispers of these beings, tales passed down from generation to generation, stories of a race so fair, so powerful, that the earth itself bowed to their presence. The Tuatha Dé Danann were said to come from islands beyond the edge of the world, places where the sun always shone and the night was filled with stars that never faded. These islands were not part of any map, for they were as much a part of the Otherworld as they were of this one. And when they set sail for Ireland, they did so not in wooden ships, but on clouds, riding the winds of fate. When they stepped onto the shores of Ireland, the world seemed to hold its breath. The very air shimmered around them, as if unable to contain the power that radiated from their presence. They were tall and graceful, their faces alight with a beauty that was both enchanting and terrifying. Their eyes, deep as the ocean, seemed to see into the soul of the land, into the heart of every living thing. They brought with them gifts, treasures beyond imagination, and knowledge that could shape the destiny of nations. The Tuatha Dé Danann were not just warriors, though their skill in battle was unmatched. They were poets and musicians, healers and craftsmen, each one a master of their art. They carried within them the magic of the earth, the sky, and the stars. With a word, they could command the winds. With a gesture, they could make the rivers dance. They were beings of pure magic, as connected to the natural world as the roots of an ancient oak. But their arrival was not without conflict. Ireland was already home to another race, the Fir-Bolg, a people strong and proud, who had tilled the soil and tended the flocks for generations. The Fir-Bolg had their own gods, their own way of life, and they did not welcome the arrival of these newcomers. The Tuatha Dé Danann, however, were not to be denied. They offered the Fir-Bolg a choice, to share the land or to fight for it. And so, the battle began. The clash between the two races was fierce, the earth shaking beneath the weight of their struggle. But the Tuatha Dé Danann, with their magic and their skill, were victorious. Yet, their victory was not one of destruction but of transformation. They did not seek to annihilate their foes, but to integrate them, to weave them into the fabric of the new Ireland they would create. Those Fir-Bolg who survived were given land and honor, and they lived alongside the Tuatha Dé Danann, their stories becoming part of the greater tapestry of Irish mythology. The Tuatha Dé Danann were more than just rulers, they became the guardians of the land. They nurtured it, loved it, and in return, the land flourished. The rivers ran clear, the forests were lush, and the crops grew in abundance. The people of Ireland, under their rule, prospered. But the Tuatha Dé Danann did not merely rule with might, they ruled with wisdom and compassion. They taught the people the secrets of the earth, the healing properties of plants, the power of music and poetry. They brought art and beauty into the world, and under their guidance, Ireland became a land of culture and enlightenment. Yet, even as they brought peace and prosperity, the Tuatha Dé Danann knew that their time in the world of men was limited. They were beings of magic, and the world of men was one of iron and blood. The coming of the Milesians, the ancestors of the modern Irish, marked the end of the Tuatha Dé Danann's reign. They did not fight this new race, for they understood that the time of magic was fading. Instead, they withdrew into the mists, returning to the Otherworld from which they had come. But they did not leave the land entirely. The Tuatha Dé Danann became the Fairies, the Sidhe, the hidden people who live beneath the hills and in the ancient mounds that dot the Irish landscape. They are still there, in the quiet places, watching over the land, caring for it as they always have. And the people of Ireland, to this day, honor them, leaving offerings at the fairy trees, whispering prayers into the night. The arrival of the Tuatha Dé Danann was not just a moment in time, it was the beginning of a story that would be told for generations. Their legacy is woven into the very fabric of Irish culture, in the songs that are sung, the stories that are told, and the land itself, which still bears the marks of their magic. They are more than just figures of legend, they are the heart of Ireland, the spirit of a people who have never forgotten that, somewhere just beyond the veil, the Tuatha Dé Danann are still watching, still caring, still waiting for the day when they might walk the earth once more. The land was quiet, but not with peace, it was the kind of stillness that comes before a storm. The Tuatha Dé Danann, the ancient and mystical people who had brought magic and beauty to Ireland, could feel the change in the air. The winds whispered of a new power rising, a force unlike any they had ever encountered. The Milesians, a people strong and determined, had arrived on the shores of Ireland, and they were not there to live in harmony. They came with fire in their hearts and conquest in their blood. The Tuatha Dé Danann had always known that their time in the world of men was borrowed. They were beings of magic, connected to the earth and the stars, but they could see that the world was changing. The age of iron and warriors had dawned, and with it, the Milesians had come, bringing a new era that would sweep away the old ways. When the Milesians landed, the Tuatha Dé Danann did not greet them with hostility. Instead, they offered them the same choice they had given the Fir-Bolg many years before, to share the land, to live in peace, or to fight for dominance. But the Milesians, proud and fierce, had no interest in sharing. They saw the land as theirs by right, a place promised to them by their ancestors. And so, the battle was inevitable. The clash between the two peoples was fierce and filled with sorrow. The Tuatha Dé Danann fought not just with swords, but with the magic of the earth and sky. The ground itself seemed to rise in their defense, and the winds howled in response to their calls. But the Milesians were relentless. Their will was like steel, unyielding and cold, and they pushed forward with a determination that even the Tuatha Dé Danann could not overcome. As the battle raged, the Tuatha Dé Danann began to understand that this was not just a fight for land or power, it was a fight for survival, for their very existence in the world of men. The Milesians, with their iron weapons and unshakable belief in their destiny, were unstoppable. For the first time, the Tuatha Dé Danann felt the sting of defeat, not just in their bodies but in their hearts. They knew that they could not hold back the tide that had come to wash them away. And so, in the midst of the battle, a decision was made. The Tuatha Dé Danann would retreat, but not in defeat, in preservation. They would leave the world of men, not because they were conquered, but because they understood that their place was no longer here. The world had moved on, and they would move with it, into the mists of the Otherworld, where they would live on in the shadows and in the stories of those who remembered. One by one, the great kings and queens of the Tuatha Dé Danann, those who had led their people through countless trials, began to fade. The earth opened up to receive them, the hills and mounds becoming their new homes, hidden from the eyes of men. The lakes and rivers, once vibrant with their magic, became quiet, holding their secrets deep within. The forests, which had danced to their songs, stood still, their branches heavy with the weight of loss. The Milesians, seeing the Tuatha Dé Danann retreat, claimed victory. They believed they had driven the old gods away, that they had taken the land for themselves. But the Tuatha Dé Danann were not gone, they had simply stepped into a world just beyond the reach of men, a place where time moved differently, where they could watch over the land they loved without being seen. In the Otherworld, the Tuatha Dé Danann found peace, but their hearts still ached for the Ireland they had known. They watched as the Milesians built their kingdoms, as the old ways were forgotten and the land changed. But they were patient, knowing that their time would come again, in whispers and dreams, in the quiet places where the veil between worlds is thin. The people of Ireland, the descendants of the Milesians, never forgot the Tuatha Dé Danann. They spoke of them in hushed tones, telling stories of the fair folk who lived beneath the hills, of the Sidhe who could grant blessings or curses. They left offerings at ancient mounds, hoping to gain favor or avoid the wrath of those who had once ruled the land. Even as the world moved on, the Tuatha Dé Danann remained a part of it, their presence felt in the flicker of a shadow, the rustle of leaves in a still forest, the sudden chill in the air on a warm summer's day. They were not just legends, they were a living part of the land, a reminder that magic, once it touches a place, never truly leaves. And so, the Tuatha Dé Danann, though defeated, were never truly gone. They became the guardians of the old ways, the keepers of the mysteries that the Milesians could never fully understand. They watched over Ireland, a silent, unseen force, ensuring that the magic of the land, the soul of their beloved home, would never fade entirely. In every story told around the fire, and every song sung in the quiet of the night, the Tuatha Dé Danann live on. They are the heartbeat of Ireland, the echo of a time when gods walked among men, and the world was filled with wonders beyond imagination. Though they have retreated from the world of men, they are still there, in the Otherworld, waiting, watching, and perhaps, someday, returning. Their defeat was not an end, but a transformation. The Tuatha Dé Danann, the ever-living ones, found a way to survive, not in the world of men, but in the hearts and minds of those who remember. Their story, filled with beauty and sorrow, continues to be told, a tale of loss and hope, of a people who loved their land so deeply that they became a part of it, forever. In the dim light of twilight, when the world seems to hold its breath between day and night, something magical stirs. It is in this moment, when the veil between worlds is at its thinnest, that the Tuatha Dé Danann, once great and mighty, begin their transformation. Their story did not end with defeat, it changed, just as they did. From gods and goddesses, warriors and kings, they became something else, something smaller, more elusive, yet no less powerful. They became the fairies of Irish folklore, the Sidhe, who dwell in the shadows and the mist. The Tuatha Dé Danann were not like mortals, they were beings of magic, deeply tied to the land they loved. Even after their retreat into the Otherworld, their connection to Ireland remained unbroken. They could not bear to be completely removed from the world they had once ruled, so they found a way to linger, to stay close. But to do so, they had to change. This transformation was not immediate, it was a process, a gradual shift that took place over time. As the Tuatha Dé Danann settled into their new existence in the Otherworld, their bodies and spirits began to adapt. The great warriors, once tall and strong, became smaller, their forms lighter, almost ethereal. The queens and goddesses, once radiating power and authority, became more delicate, their beauty turning otherworldly, their voices soft whispers in the wind. In this new form, they were no longer the rulers of the land, but its guardians. They took on the role of protectors, watching over the hills, forests, and rivers that had once been their kingdom. But as the world of men changed, so too did their role. The Tuatha Dé Danann, now the Sidhe, became the keepers of secrets, the spirits who could bring blessings or mischief, depending on how they were treated by the mortals who still lived on the land. The people of Ireland, though they had once fought against the Tuatha Dé Danann, never truly forgot them. They knew that the Sidhe were all around them, hidden in plain sight. They left offerings at sacred mounds and ancient trees, hoping to gain their favor. And sometimes, if they were very lucky or very unlucky, they caught glimpses of these otherworldly beings, flitting through the shadows, just out of reach. The Sidhe were not bound by the same rules as mortals. They could move between worlds, appearing in the mortal realm whenever they wished, though always on their own terms. They could be kind and generous, helping those who respected the old ways, but they could also be capricious and vengeful, punishing those who crossed them. The stories of their deeds, both good and bad, spread across Ireland, becoming the foundation of fairy folklore. In these stories, the Sidhe were often portrayed as tricksters, leading travelers astray with their enchanting music and dancing lights. But behind the mischief, there was always a deeper purpose. The Sidhe were not merely playing games, they were reminding the people of Ireland that the old magic was still alive, that the Tuatha Dé Danann had not been forgotten. Through their tricks and illusions, they kept the memory of their greatness alive, even as they took on this new, smaller form. Yet, the Sidhe were not just mischievous spirits, they were also beings of great power. They could bless the land with fertility, ensuring bountiful harvests, or they could curse it, bringing famine and despair. They could heal the sick with a touch, or they could bring death with a glance. This power, though diminished from what it had been when they ruled as gods, was still formidable, and the people of Ireland treated the Sidhe with a mixture of awe and fear. As the centuries passed, the Sidhe became an integral part of Irish life. They were woven into the fabric of the land, their presence felt in every ancient stone circle, every quiet glen, every mist-covered hill. The people who lived in these places learned to live with the Sidhe, to respect their boundaries, and to honor the old traditions that kept the peace between the worlds. But the transformation of the Tuatha Dé Danann into the Sidhe was not just a physical change, it was also a change in purpose. They had once been gods, ruling over Ireland with wisdom and strength. Now, they were something different, something both more and less than what they had been. They were still connected to the land, still filled with magic, but they were also closer to the people they had once ruled. They had become part of the landscape, part of the very essence of Ireland itself. In this new form, the Sidhe found a kind of peace. They were no longer burdened with the responsibilities of ruling a kingdom, but they were still able to protect and nurture the land they loved. They could move through the world unseen, their actions subtle but powerful. They were no longer gods, but they were still divine, still connected to the sacred mysteries of the earth and sky. The transformation of the Tuatha Dé Danann into the Sidhe was a testament to their resilience, to their ability to adapt and survive in a world that had changed beyond recognition. They had lost their kingdom, their power, their place in the world of men, but they had not lost themselves. They had simply changed, finding a new way to exist, a new way to keep their magic alive. And so, the Tuatha Dé Danann live on, not as the mighty gods they once were, but as the fairies of Irish folklore. They are still there, in the mists and the shadows, in the quiet places of the world, watching, waiting, and sometimes, if you're very lucky, or very unlucky, you might catch a glimpse of them. They are the Sidhe, the ever-living ones, transformed but never truly gone, their story woven into the very soul of Ireland. In the ancient mists of Ireland, where the land itself seemed to breathe with life, there were beings who once walked among mortals, holding the power of the earth, the sky, and the sea in their hands. These were the Tuatha Dé Danann, the gods and goddesses who shaped the fate of the land, whose voices were like thunder and whose touch could heal or destroy. But time has a way of changing even the mightiest, and as the Tuatha Dé Dananns faded from the world of men, they did not disappear, they transformed. In this transformation, their essence was not lost, but rather reborn in a new, more ethereal form, giving rise to the fairies who would forever be woven into the fabric of Irish folklore. Each of these deities carried with them a unique power, a distinct presence that could not simply vanish. And so, as they shifted into the fairy folk, they retained much of what made them divine, though now they appeared in a different guise. They became smaller, more elusive, yet their power remained, humming beneath the surface, ready to burst forth when least expected. Take, for instance, the mighty Dagda, the All-Father, whose strength was as boundless as the earth itself. In the days of old, he wielded a club that could kill with one end and bring life with the other, and he controlled a cauldron that never ran dry, feeding all who came to him. As time passed and he took on a new form, he did not lose this connection to abundance and power. In the world of fairies, Dagda's essence became embodied in the figure of a benevolent yet formidable fairy king, one who oversees the prosperity of his people, ensuring that the land continues to flourish under his watchful eye. Then there was Brigid, the radiant goddess of fire, poetry, and healing. In the time of the Tuatha Dé Danann, her presence was like the dawn breaking over the hills, bringing warmth and inspiration to all who worshipped her. As she transitioned into the realm of the fairies, Brigid's light did not dim. Instead, it was diffused into countless flickering flames, seen in the will-o'-the-wisps that dance across the bogs and marshes. Her healing powers lingered too, whispered in the herbs and flowers that the fairies used to mend wounds and cure sickness, carrying her gentle touch to those who believed. And who could forget Lugh, the master of all arts, the god of light whose brilliance outshone the stars? Lugh was known for his unmatched skill in battle and craftsmanship, his hands creating wonders that would stand the test of time. As a fairy, Lugh's talents became even more mysterious as he moved silently through the forests, leaving behind trails of gold and silver, intricate patterns in the leaves, and echoes of music that seemed to come from the very heart of the earth. The fairies who embody his spirit are the artisans of their world, crafting beauty out of the simplest of things, their work a tribute to the god who was once their inspiration. The Morrigan, the fearsome goddess of war and fate, also found a place in this new world. Once, she had soared over battlefields as a crow, her cry striking terror into the hearts of warriors. Her presence was a harbinger of death, her power undeniable. In the realm of fairies, the Morrigan's dark power was not diminished but transformed. She became the mysterious fairy queen who controls the night, her influence seen in the storms that rage across the sky, and the shadows that move just out of sight. The fairies who follow her are the bringers of fate, their actions subtle yet profound, guiding the lives of mortals in ways unseen and often feared. Even Manannán mac Lir, the god of the sea, whose waves could rise to engulf whole armies, found a new life among the fairies. His domain, once vast and unpredictable, now manifests in the hidden lakes and rivers where the fairy folk dwell. Manannán's spirit lives on in the water fairies who guard these sacred places, their presence felt in the gentle lapping of the waves or the sudden storm that sweeps across a tranquil surface. They carry his wisdom, his understanding of the deep, and his love for the mysterious world beneath the waves. These transformations were not merely changes in appearance or name, they were shifts in purpose, in the way these deities interacted with the world. As fairies, they became more closely tied to the land itself, their powers more subtle yet no less potent. They no longer stood above mortals as distant gods, but rather, they became part of the world's heartbeat, their presence felt in the rustle of leaves, the sparkle of dew on the grass, the soft glow of the moon. They were still divine, still powerful, but now they were also part of the everyday magic that made Ireland a land of wonder. This connection to the natural world gave the fairies an intimacy with the land that even the Tuatha Dé Danann had never known. They could slip through the cracks between worlds, moving unseen, their influence felt in the quiet moments of life. A sudden breeze that carries the scent of flowers, a shadow that flickers in the corner of your eye, the feeling that you are not alone even when no one else is there. These are the marks of the fairies, the remnants of the gods who once walked the earth. As time went on, the stories of these gods and their fairy counterparts intertwined, each tale adding to the rich tapestry of Irish mythology. The fairies, once gods, became the keepers of the old ways, their magic a reminder of a time when the world was full of wonder, and the line between the mortal and the divine was thin. They are still here, in the quiet places, in the mists and the shadows, watching, waiting, their power as strong as ever, even if they now wear a different face. And though they may no longer be the mighty beings they once were, the fairies of Irish folklore carry within them the heart and soul of the Tuatha Dé Danann, their legacy living on in every story told by the fireside, in every whisper of the wind. In the whispering hills of Ireland, where the mists curl like ancient spirits, there exists a hidden world, one that mortals only glimpse in dreams. This is the world of the Sidhe, beings of such beauty and power that even the bravest heart may tremble in their presence. They are not ordinary fairies, they are the nobility of the unseen world, the keepers of ancient secrets, and the guardians of the old ways. The Sidhe are not born of the earth as we are, but of a place that is just beyond our reach. Their homes, the hollow hills, are not mere mounds of dirt and stone. These hills pulse with a magic that has lingered since the dawn of time. If one were to stand still on a quiet night, the air heavy with the scent of rain and earth, they might hear the faintest melody, a tune that seems to come from the very ground beneath their feet. It is said that this music is the song of the Sidhe, calling to those who have the heart to listen, luring them closer to a world where time does not pass, and beauty never fades. But the Sidhe are not only enchanting, they are formidable. Their eyes, often described as deep as the ocean or as bright as the stars, see through the veils that separate our world from theirs. To look into their eyes is to feel the weight of countless ages, to be seen not as you are but as you could be, stripped of pretense and laid bare in the truth of their gaze. They do not live by the rules of mortals, for their world is one of wonder and terror, where joy and sorrow are intertwined, where a dance can last a lifetime, and a promise can bind a soul for eternity. Among the Sidhe, there are those who rule with grace and those who rule with iron. They are kings and queens, lords and ladies, each more magnificent than the last. Their courts are filled with laughter that can turn to weeping in a breath, and their banquets are laden with food that tastes of dreams. But beware, for the food of the Sidhe is not for mortal mouths. To eat it is to be bound to their world, to lose oneself in a place where the sun never sets and the seasons never change. The Sidhe walk with the power of the old gods, their bloodlines traced back to the Tuatha Dé Danann. Their magic is in the earth, in the wind, in the water that flows through the rivers, and in the fire that burns in the hearths. It is a magic that is as wild as the sea and as ancient as the stones. They do not age as we do. Time touches them lightly, like a breeze through the trees, leaving them forever on the edge of youth and ageless wisdom. But for all their power, the Sidhe are not invincible. They are tied to the land, to the ancient places where their ancestors once walked. The hills where they dwell are sacred, and they guard them fiercely. It is said that to disturb these places is to invite the wrath of the Sidhe, a wrath that can bring storms, blight, and sorrow to those who offend them. Yet, to honor them, to leave offerings of milk and honey at the foot of their hills, is to invite their favor, a blessing that can bring fortune and peace. The Sidhe are also known for their pride, a pride that can be as dangerous as it is beautiful. They do not forget an insult, nor do they forgive easily. A slight, even unintentional, can lead to a curse that lasts generations. But their favor, once won, is a treasure beyond measure. They are generous to those they love, bestowing gifts of unimaginable worth, gifts that can heal the sick, bring prosperity, or even grant a glimpse into the future. To speak of the Sidhe is to speak of love and loss, of beauty that can break the heart and power that can crush the soul. They are both merciful and merciless, kind and cruel, embodying the very essence of the land they inhabit. The Sidhe are the soul of Ireland, the breath of its mountains, the tears of its rivers, and the laughter of its winds. They are the ancient ones, the noble ones, the ones who live in the space between worlds, watching, waiting, and sometimes, just sometimes, letting themselves be seen. There are those who say the Sidhe are fading, their magic growing thin as the world changes and the old ways are forgotten. But the hills still stand, the mists still rise, and the music of the Sidhe still echoes in the quiet places. They are still there, the nobility of the fairy world, the Sidhe who once walked as gods and now watch as guardians, holding the memory of a time when the world was young and full of wonder. So, when the wind blows cold, and the night seems darker than usual, remember the Sidhe. Remember the beauty that can steal a breath, the power that can crush a heart, and the magic that lingers in every corner of the land. They are the Sidhe, the noble ones, the fairies who are not just part of a story, but part of the very soul of Ireland. They are still here, still watching, still waiting for the world to remember them. In the stillness of the night, when the world is cloaked in darkness, a sound like no other pierces the quiet, a wail so haunting, it chills the very soul. This is the cry of the Banshee, a figure both feared and revered in Irish folklore. The Banshee is not a mere spirit, she is a harbinger of death, a spectral being whose mournful lament foretells the passing of a loved one. Her presence is a reminder of the fragility of life and the inevitability of death, a ghostly figure who bridges the world of the living and the dead. The origins of the Banshee are as ancient as the hills of Ireland, rooted in a time when the veil between worlds was thin, and the supernatural was a part of everyday life. The word Banshee comes from the Irish being Sidhe, meaning woman of the fairy mound. She is often described as a woman of striking appearance, her hair long and flowing, sometimes silver as the moon, sometimes black as the night. Her eyes are red from weeping, her face pale and gaunt, and her presence is both beautiful and terrifying. In some stories, the Banshee is seen as a protector, a spirit who watches over certain families, particularly those of noble lineage. She is said to have a deep connection with the old Irish clans, and her wail is a warning, a cry of sorrow that signals the impending death of a family member. To hear the Banshee's wail is to be touched by the hand of fate, to know that death is near, and that there is nothing that can be done to stop it. But the Banshee is not a creature of malice. Her cry, though terrifying, is not a curse but a lament. She mourns the death that is to come, sharing in the sorrow of those who will be left behind. There is a deep sadness in the Banshee, a sorrow that echoes through the ages, born from countless years of witnessing death and loss. She is a being of pure emotion, her existence tied to the grief of others, her purpose to mourn the passing of life. Some tales speak of the Banshee as a solitary figure, wandering the darkened countryside, her cry heard only by those destined to die or their loved ones. She is often seen near water, a connection to the ancient belief that souls crossed water to reach the afterlife. In these stories, the Banshee is a lonely figure, bound to her role as a messenger of death, unable to escape the sorrow that defines her existence. Other legends tell of multiple Banshees appearing together, their combined wails creating a chorus of sorrow that can be heard for miles. When more than one Banshee is heard, it is said to signify the death of someone great or important, a loss that will be felt by many. This gathering of Banshees is a rare and terrifying event, a sound that strikes fear into the hearts of all who hear it. Despite her fearsome reputation, the Banshee is also a figure of respect in Irish culture. She is seen as a part of the natural order, a necessary force that helps to usher souls from this world to the next. Her wail, though dreaded, is a reminder of the connection between life and death, and the thin line that separates the two. The Banshee embodies the deep respect the Irish people have for the dead, and the belief that death is not an end, but a transition to another form of existence. The cultural significance of the Banshee extends beyond her role as a harbinger of death. She is a symbol of the enduring power of grief, a representation of the profound sorrow that accompanies loss. In a culture where the dead are honored and remembered, the Banshee is a reminder that grief is a natural and necessary part of life, that to mourn is to honor those who have passed. In some regions of Ireland, the Banshee is also associated with keening, a traditional form of lament performed at funerals. Keening is a way of expressing grief through song, and it is believed that the Banshee's wail is a form of supernatural keening, a lament for the dead that transcends the mortal world. This connection between the Banshee and Keening reflects the deep cultural roots of mourning in Irish tradition, and the belief that the dead should be honored with song and sorrow. The Banshee's place in Irish folklore is a testament to the enduring power of myth and legend. She is a figure who has survived the passage of time, her story passed down through generations, her cry still heard in the dark corners of the world. The Banshee represents the deep connection between the Irish people and their land, their ancestors, and their beliefs. She is a symbol of the enduring power of grief, a reminder that death is not something to be feared, but a part of life that must be faced with courage and acceptance. To hear the Banshee's wail is to feel the weight of history, the sorrow of countless generations, and the inevitability of death. It is to be reminded of the fleeting nature of life and the importance of cherishing every moment. The Banshee is not just a figure of fear, she is a guardian of memory, a keeper of the past, and a guide for those who must face the unknown. She is a part of the very fabric of Ireland, a symbol of the beauty and sorrow that defines the human experience. Beneath the emerald green hills of Ireland, where the mist clings to the earth and the air carries the scent of rain, there's a tale whispered among the old stones and ancient trees. It's the tale of a little figure, no taller than a child, yet as old as the land itself. He's a creature of mischief and magic, a guardian of treasures hidden deep within the earth. This is the story of the leprechaun, a figure as mysterious as he is beloved, whose laughter echoes through the ages, mingling with the song of the wind. The leprechaun, with his sharp eyes and quick smile, is a being who defies easy understanding. He's often seen dressed in green or red, with a cocked hat perched jauntily on his head, and shoes that gleam as if freshly polished. But it's not just his appearance that makes him stand out, it's his spirit. The leprechaun is a solitary creature, often preferring his own company to that of others. Yet, despite his aloofness, he's a figure who has captured the hearts and imaginations of people for centuries. His origins are as tangled and twisted as the roots of the ancient oaks that dot the Irish countryside. Some say the leprechaun descends from the Tuatha Dé Danann, the old gods and heroes of Ireland who, after their defeat, retreated into the mists, becoming the fairies and spirits that inhabit the land. Others believe he's a type of fairy himself, a being born of the earth, as ancient as the hills he calls home. Whatever his beginnings, the leprechaun has become a symbol of the enduring spirit of the Irish people, resourceful, clever, and never without a trick up his sleeve. Leprechauns are known for their skill as cobblers, making and mending shoes with a craftsmanship unmatched by any mortal hand. It's said that if you listen carefully, you might hear the tap-tap-tapping of a leprechaun's hammer echoing through the quiet of the countryside. But their love of shoes is not just a hobby, it's a part of their nature. The leprechaun is a creature who values hard work, who understands the importance of a well-made shoe, for shoes carry you through the world, and the world is full of adventure. Yet, despite their industrious nature, leprechauns are best known for their mischief. They are tricksters at heart, delighting in leading the unwary astray, playing pranks that range from the harmless to the downright troublesome. But their mischief is not born of malice, it's a way of testing those who cross their path. The leprechaun is a guardian of the old ways, and he uses his tricks to teach lessons, to remind people of the magic that still exists in the world, if only they know where to look. But beneath the laughter and the pranks, there's another side to the leprechaun, a side that's tied to the deep, ancient magic of the earth. Leprechauns are said to be keepers of great treasures, hidden away in secret places known only to them. These treasures, often gold, are guarded fiercely, and it's said that if you catch a leprechaun, he must grant you 3 wishes or lead you to his treasure. But be warned, for the leprechaun is as cunning as he is clever, and those who try to outsmart him often find themselves outsmarted in turn. The tale of the leprechaun is not just a story of mischief and magic, it's a story of survival. In a land that has seen its share of hardship, the leprechaun stands as a symbol of resilience, of the ability to laugh in the face of adversity, to find joy in the small things, and to hold on to the treasures that truly matter. He is a reminder that even in the darkest times, there's a light that cannot be extinguished, a spark of hope that lives on in the hearts of those who believe. Culturally, the leprechaun has become a figure of immense significance, embodying the spirit of Ireland itself. He's a symbol of the country's rich folklore, a link to a past filled with magic and mystery, where the supernatural was a part of everyday life. The leprechaun is more than just a character from a story. He's a connection to the land, to the history and traditions that have shaped Ireland for centuries. Even today, the leprechaun continues to capture the imagination, appearing in stories, films, and celebrations. He's become a symbol of Irish identity, recognized and beloved around the world. But while the modern portrayal of the leprechaun often focuses on his mischievous side, it's important to remember the depth of his character, the wisdom hidden behind the twinkle in his eye, the sorrow buried beneath his laughter. For the leprechaun, like all the best stories, is a complex figure, full of contradictions and surprises. He's a reminder that there's more to life than meets the eye, that the world is filled with wonders if only we take the time to see them. He's a guardian of the old ways, a keeper of secrets, and a symbol of the magic that lives on in the hearts of those who believe. So, as the mist rolls in over the hills, and the evening light fades into twilight, listen carefully. You might just hear the sound of a hammer tapping in the distance, or catch a glimpse of a small figure slipping through the shadows. And if you're lucky, you might find yourself face to face with a leprechaun, a being as old as time, yet as lively as the wind that dances through the trees. And in that moment, you'll know that the magic of Ireland is still very much alive, carried on in the laughter and the mischief of a little man with a twinkle in his eye. On the rugged shores where the sea meets the land, where waves crash against jagged rocks and the wind carries the taste of salt, there's a legend that stirs the heart like the pull of the tide. It's a story of creatures who belong to both the ocean and the earth, beings of deep mystery and haunting beauty. These are the Selkies, seals who shed their skins to walk as humans on the shores, and whose tales are woven with longing and loss. In the moonlight, when the world is hushed and the only sound is the whisper of the waves, the Selkies come ashore. They slip from their seal skins, revealing forms as graceful as the sea itself, their hair dark as the depths or shining like the sun on water. For a time, they dance on the sands, their laughter mingling with the music of the sea, free and wild in a world that is not their own. But beneath the joy of their fleeting moments on land lies a deeper sorrow. For the Selkies are bound to the ocean, their true home, and the call of the sea is always in their hearts. Though they may fall in love with the land and the people who dwell there, their souls are tied to the water, and they cannot stay. Their skins, hidden away, hold the key to their return, and without them, they are trapped, torn between two worlds. There are stories told in hushed voices of men who found a Selkie's skin and hid it away, taking her as a wife. These men would keep the skin locked in a chest or buried deep within their homes, hoping to bind the Selkie to them, to keep her from the sea. And for a time, the Selkie might stay, living as a human, raising children, tending to a home. But the sea never forgets its own, and neither do the Selkies. There's a sadness in their eyes, a longing that never fades, and it is said that their tears are like the ocean, filled with the salt of unspoken sorrow. One day, inevitably, the Selkie finds her skin. Perhaps it's a whisper from the waves, or the scent of the sea carried on the wind, but she is drawn to it, and she cannot resist. The skin slips over her like a second soul, and with it, she returns to the ocean, leaving behind the life she built on land. There is no choice, no farewell, just the silent pull of the tide, drawing her back to the depths where she belongs. And the ones left behind, those who loved her, are left with an emptiness, a space that echoes with the memory of her laughter and the sight of her fading into the sea. Yet, the Selkie's story is not just one of sadness. It's a tale of freedom, of the enduring bond between the Selkies and the sea. They are creatures who live between worlds, and in their dual nature lies a profound truth: the sea and the land, the human and the wild, are not separate, but intertwined. The Selkies remind us that we are all connected to something deeper, something ancient and untamed, that calls to us in the quiet moments, in the sound of the waves or the feel of the wind on our skin. Culturally, Selkies are a symbol of transformation and the complexity of identity. They are neither fully human nor fully seal, but something in between, and their stories reflect the fluid nature of life itself. They teach us about the sacrifices we make, the choices that shape us, and the pull of the past that is always with us. The Selkies are a reflection of the human heart, torn between love and duty, freedom and belonging, the familiar and the unknown. In the folklore of Ireland and Scotland, Selkies are revered and feared, beloved and tragic. Their tales are told as warnings and as reminders, as stories of the heart and the sea. The Selkies live on in these stories, in the songs of the fishermen and the whispers of the waves, in the quiet moments when the sea is still and the land seems far away. They are creatures of the ocean, yes, but they are also mirrors of the human soul, reflecting our deepest desires and our greatest sorrows. So, when you stand on the shore and gaze out at the endless horizon, remember the Selkies. Remember the women who danced on the sands, who loved and lost and returned to the sea. Remember the longing in their eyes, the sound of their laughter carried away by the wind. And know that in every wave, in every ripple of the tide, the Selkies are there, forever a part of the ocean's song, forever a part of the world's heart. In the heart of the Irish countryside, where the mist hangs low over the fields and the moonlight casts long, eerie shadows, there is a creature that stirs both fear and wonder. It moves silently through the night, its presence felt more than seen, a shape that shifts like the fog, elusive and wild. This is the Puka, a being of ancient magic, whose very name is whispered with a mixture of awe and dread. The Puka is not like any other creature of folklore. It doesn't fit neatly into a single form. Sometimes, it appears as a sleek black horse, its eyes glowing with an otherworldly light, its breath steaming in the cool night air. Other times, it takes the shape of a goat with horns that curl menacingly, or a large, shadowy dog that prowls the edges of the village, its growl rumbling like distant thunder. There are tales of Pukas appearing as men or even old women, their appearances deceptively ordinary until something, perhaps a glint in the eye or a flicker of movement, reveals their true nature. But no matter what form it takes, the Puka is always a creature of mischief and mystery. It thrives on the thrill of chaos, on the laughter that borders on terror. For the Puka loves to play tricks on those who cross its path. It might lead a traveler astray, guiding them deep into the woods with the promise of a shortcut, only to vanish and leave them lost in the dark. Or it might appear to a farmer late at night, convincing him to mount its back, only to take off in a wild, uncontrollable ride across the countryside, leaping over hedges and streams, through fields and over cliffs, before dumping its rider back where they started, breathless and shaken. Yet, for all its trickery, the Puka is not malevolent. There's a strange sort of fairness in its mischief. It doesn't seek to harm, but rather to teach, to remind people of the power and unpredictability of the world around them. The Puka is a guardian of the wild places, a spirit of the untamed land, reminding us that not everything can be controlled or understood. There's a deeper side to the Puka, too, one that is less known but no less important. In some tales, the Puka is seen as a harbinger of change, appearing at times of transition, when the old is giving way to the new. It comes with the turning of the seasons, when the boundaries between this world and the next are thin, when the veil between the seen and the unseen is at its most fragile. The Puka's arrival signals a time of uncertainty, but also of possibility, a time when anything can happen. And so, the Puka holds a special place in the heart of Irish folklore. It is a creature of contradictions, both feared and respected, both playful and serious. Its presence is a reminder of the power of the unknown, of the forces that lie just beyond the reach of human understanding. To encounter a Puka is to come face to face with the wildness of the world, with the mysteries that lie in the dark, with the thrill of a life that is not bound by the ordinary rules. In the stories passed down through generations, the Puka's tale is told with a mixture of caution and admiration. People speak of its tricks and its wild rides, but also of the lessons it teaches, of the way it forces us to look beyond the surface, to see the world with new eyes. The Puka is a symbol of the unpredictable, the uncontrollable, the parts of life that cannot be tamed or understood. It is a reminder that there is magic in the world, magic that is both beautiful and terrifying, magic that challenges us to step outside our comfort zones and embrace the unknown. And so, as the night falls and the mist begins to rise, the Puka roams the countryside, its presence felt in the rustling of the leaves, in the distant call of an unseen creature, in the flicker of a shadow just at the edge of your vision. It is there, always, a part of the land and the stories that spring from it, a creature of legend that lives on in the hearts and minds of those who dare to believe in the magic of the night. In the quiet hours of the night, when the world outside is still and the fire's last embers glow softly, something stirs in the shadows of the home. It's a presence felt more than seen, a whisper of movement, a brush of warmth, and a sense of being watched over by something unseen. These are the moments when the brownies come to life, gentle spirits of the household, whose stories have been woven into the fabric of folklore for centuries. Brownies are not the grand, imposing figures of myth, nor the tricksters that stir up mischief. Instead, they are the humble guardians of the home, small and unassuming, yet filled with a quiet strength and a deep sense of duty. They are the ones who sweep the hearth after the family has gone to bed, who ensure that the fire doesn't die out in the cold of the night, who mend a tear in a garment left out by the thoughtful hands of those who believe. There's a warmth to the brownies that is felt in the very bones of the house. They are creatures of kindness, drawn to homes where love and care are freely given. They cherish the laughter of children, the shared meals around the table, the simple acts of kindness that make a house a home. In return, they offer their own quiet gifts, chores done without asking, small repairs that save time and trouble, and a sense of peace that wraps around the home like a comforting blanket. But the relationship with brownies is not one to be taken lightly. These beings of the night are sensitive and proud, and they value respect above all else. They work in secret, preferring to remain unseen, their deeds known only by their results. To catch sight of a brownie, or worse, to offer them thanks or payment, is to risk offending them, for they do not work for praise or reward. Their joy comes from the simple act of helping, from being a part of the home's life without seeking the spotlight. If a family is careless or unkind, if they neglect their home or treat the brownies with disrespect, these gentle beings can become disheartened and even leave. And when a brownie leaves, it's as if the warmth has drained from the walls, as if the very soul of the home has slipped away. The hearth feels colder, the nights seem longer, and a sense of unease settles over the place. The brownie's departure is a loss felt deeply, for these spirits are more than just helpers, they are protectors, ensuring that the home remains a safe and loving place. They are the unseen hands that keep the balance, the guardians of the family's well-being. Without them, a house might stand, but it is no longer truly a home. Across different regions, these household fairies take on different forms and names, but their essence remains the same. In Scotland, they are the brownies, ever diligent and faithful. In England, they are known as hobgoblins, with a slightly more mischievous streak, but still bound by a code of kindness and care. In Ireland, they are leprechauns, often associated with the protection of wine cellars and drink, but still driven by a deep sense of loyalty to the homes they watch over. Despite these variations, the bond between these spirits and the families they serve remains one of the most touching aspects of folklore. It is a relationship built on mutual respect, on the unspoken understanding that kindness begets kindness, and that a home is more than just four walls and a roof. It is a place where love and care are nurtured, where the small acts of daily life weave together to create something sacred. To those who believe, the presence of a brownie is a comfort, a reminder that they are not alone in their efforts to maintain a happy and loving home. There is something deeply heartwarming in the thought that these little beings are watching over them, working quietly in the background, adding their own touches of care and attention. It's a bond that transcends the ordinary, a connection to something ancient and enduring, a reminder that even in the smallest of acts, there is magic. The stories of brownies and their kin are more than just tales to be told on a cold winter's night. They are a reflection of the values that make a home truly special. They remind us of the importance of kindness, of taking care of the space we live in, and of respecting the unseen forces that help us along the way. These household fairies are the unsung heroes of folklore, the ones who work in the shadows, whose contributions are felt in the warmth of the fire, in the comfort of a well-kept home, and in the sense of peace that comes from knowing that someone, somewhere, is watching over us with care. In the quiet stillness of the night, when the world outside seems shrouded in shadows, there's a lingering fear that every parent knows but seldom speaks aloud. It's the fear that something precious, something so beloved, might be stolen away without warning. This fear has a name in the old stories, a fear as old as time itself. The fear of the changeling. A changeling is not a child of flesh and blood. It is something else entirely, something born of a world that lies just beyond the edge of our understanding. The changeling is the child left behind when the fairies come to take a human infant from its cradle. It is a replacement, a mirror image of what was lost, but one that is flawed, wrong, and unnerving in ways that defy explanation. To look upon a changeling is to feel a chill deep in the bones. There is something in the eyes that seems almost human, but not quite. Something that feels as if it's watching, waiting, playing a cruel game that only it knows the rules to. The changeling mimics the child it replaced, but the mimicry is hollow. The laughter feels forced, the cries too piercing, the silence too heavy with unspoken dread. In the old tales, the changeling is a creature of deceit, brought into the human world by fairies who covet the pure and untainted life of a human child. The fairies, though beautiful and enchanting, are beings of a different nature, and their desires are not bound by human morality. They see the brightness of a newborn, the potential for a life full of experiences, and they yearn for it. And so, they steal it away, leaving behind a creature that is a mockery of what once was. Parents who suspected their child had been replaced by a changeling would be consumed by fear and sorrow. They would watch the creature that looked like their child and feel the love in their hearts turn to confusion, then to dread. It is said that a changeling often brings misfortune and ill luck to a household. The crops fail, the animals fall ill, and a sense of doom settles over the home like a thick fog. The child, once so full of life, becomes listless, its laughter replaced by eerie silence or unsettling cries. The joy that once filled the home drains away, leaving only a cold, gnawing fear. Desperate to reclaim their child, parents would turn to old rituals, hoping to force the fairies to return their stolen child. They might place the changeling on a hot shovel, hoping to frighten the creature into revealing its true nature. Or they might leave it out overnight in the hopes that the fairies would take pity and exchange it for the real child. But these rituals were dangerous and often cruel, driven by a fear so deep that it could cloud even the strongest of loves. The fear of changelings speaks to something primal, a deep-seated anxiety about the vulnerability of our loved ones, and the ease with which something precious can be lost. It's a fear of the unknown, of the things that go bump in the night, of the forces that exist beyond the veil of our world. Changelings are the embodiment of that fear, a reminder that not everything is as it seems, and that even in the safety of our homes, we are never truly beyond the reach of the unknown. Yet, beneath the fear, there is a tragic element to the changeling myth. For in the heart of the changeling is a creature that, like all beings, longs for something more. Whether it is the love of a human mother, the warmth of a home, or the experiences of a life it was never meant to have, the changeling is a being trapped between two worlds. It is a creature of the otherworld, forced into the human world, and in doing so, it loses a part of itself. The changeling is not just a monster, it is a victim too, caught in a cruel twist of fate. It is an intruder in a world it doesn't belong to, and it cannot help but bring misery to those around it. But in its hollow mimicry, there is a reflection of the pain it must feel, knowing it can never be what it pretends to be. It is a creature destined to be unloved, to be feared, and ultimately, to be rejected. The changeling myth is a haunting reminder of the thin line that separates our world from the unknown. It speaks to the fragility of life, the fear of loss, and the desperate lengths we will go to protect those we love. But it also serves as a cautionary tale, warning us of the dangers of letting fear drive us to cruelty. For in the end, the changeling is a mirror of our own fears and insecurities, a dark reflection of the love that binds us to our children and the lengths we will go to keep them in the quiet moments when the world feels still. There's a whisper in the wind that speaks of things unseen. It dances through the trees, stirs the leaves, and ripples the surface of still waters. These are the moments when the presence of something ancient and otherworldly can be felt, a presence that has always been there, hidden just beyond the reach of human eyes. It is in these moments that the fairies, guardians of the natural world, make themselves known. The fairies are not just beings of magic and mischief, they are the very essence of the earth, tied to the land in ways that go beyond mere folklore. They are the protectors of the forests, the keepers of the streams, and the spirits of the mountains. Their existence is intertwined with the natural world, each element of the environment reflecting their moods, their joys, and their sorrows. To harm the earth is to harm the fairies, and to respect the earth is to honor them. There are places in the world where the presence of fairies is strongest, places where the veil between our world and theirs is thin. These are the sacred places, the spots in nature where the air feels thicker, the light softer, and time itself seems to slow down. It might be an ancient oak tree with roots that dig deep into the soil, or a circle of stones that have stood for centuries, weathering the winds and the rains. It might be a quiet glen, hidden away from the eyes of the world, where the only sound is the rustle of leaves and the distant call of a bird. These are the places where the fairies dwell, where they come to dance under the moonlight and sing the songs of the earth. The fairies are drawn to these sacred places because they are the heartbeats of the natural world. They are the places where the earth's energy is strongest, where life is at its most vibrant and pure. The fairies nurture these places, caring for the plants and animals, ensuring that the balance of nature is maintained. They are the unseen gardeners, tending to the wildflowers, the moss, and the trees, making sure that everything grows as it should. They guide the waters of the streams, helping them find their way through the forests and meadows, giving life to all that they touch. But the relationship between fairies and the natural world is not just one of care and protection, it is one of deep, profound connection. The fairies are part of the earth, and the earth is part of them. When the flowers bloom in the spring, the fairies rejoice, their spirits lifting with the scent of the blossoms. When the leaves fall in the autumn, the fairies mourn, feeling the loss of life in the chill of the air. They are the breath of the wind, the sparkle of the sunlight on water, the quiet rustle of the grass underfoot. The fairies' connection to the natural world is so strong that they are often seen as its embodiment. The tree that stands tall and strong is not just a tree, it is the spirit of the fairy who watches over it. The stream that flows clear and pure is not just water, it is the lifeblood of the fairy who guides it. The mountain that rises high into the sky is not just rock and earth, it is the home of the fairy who lives within its depths. To see the natural world is to see the fairies themselves, and all their beauty and mystery. There is a sacredness to this relationship, a reverence that the fairies hold for the earth and all its creatures. They do not take more than they need, and they do not give more than is required. They live in harmony with the natural world, understanding its cycles, its rhythms, and its needs. They are the teachers of balance, showing us how to live with the earth rather than against it, how to respect the land and all that it provides. Yet, this relationship is fragile, as delicate as the petals of a flower or the wings of a butterfly. The fairies are deeply sensitive to the changes in the environment, feeling every cut of the axe, every flame of the fire, every drop of poison that seeps into the soil. When the natural world is harmed, the fairies are harmed too. They retreat deeper into the wilds, their voices growing quieter, their presence fainter. The sacred places become harder to find, hidden away to protect them from the destruction of human hands. But even in their retreat, the fairies continue to watch over the earth, hoping for a time when the natural world will be respected once more. They whisper to the trees, asking them to stand strong. They sing to the waters, asking them to keep flowing. They speak to the animals, asking them to keep living, despite the hardships they face. The fairies are the last guardians of the earth, the last protectors of the natural world, holding on to the hope that one day, the balance will be restored. In these sacred places, where the fairies' presence is strongest, there is a sense of peace, a sense of being in a world that is untouched by time and change. These are the places where the earth still sings its ancient song, where the fairies still dance in the moonlight, where the natural world is still whole and pure. And in these places, if you listen closely, you might just hear the whisper of the fairies, reminding you of the beauty and the magic that exists in every corner of the earth. On quiet, misty mornings when the world is hushed and still, there are places where the earth itself seems to hold its breath. These are the fairy hills, ancient mounds that rise gently from the landscape, shrouded in a veil of mystery. To the unknowing eye, they might appear as simple hills, perhaps remnants of old settlements or the work of nature itself. But to those who listen, to those who feel, these mounds are far more than mere earth and stone. They are the doorways to another world, a world where the fairies dwell, where time flows differently, and where the rules of our world no longer apply. These fairy hills, known as Sidhe mounds, are sacred places in Irish mythology. They are said to be the homes of the Selkies, the fairy folk who are both feared and revered in Irish culture. The hills are not just their homes, but their fortresses, their palaces, their places of power. It is believed that within these mounds lie entire worlds, hidden from human eyes, where the fairies live in splendor and beauty, untouched by the passing of time. Approaching a fairy hill is not something to be done lightly. The air around them feels different, thicker somehow, as if the very atmosphere is charged with something ancient and powerful. There's a stillness that envelopes these mounds, a silence that speaks volumes. The birds do not sing here, and the wind whispers secrets that it has carried for centuries. The ground beneath your feet feels alive, as if it remembers every footstep, every word spoken in its presence. The people who live near these mounds have always treated them with a mixture of awe and fear. Stories abound of those who dared to disturb the fairy hills, only to find themselves cursed with misfortune. Crops would wither, livestock would fall ill, and strange occurrences would plague their homes. It is said that the fairies do not take kindly to those who disrespect their homes, and they have ways of making their displeasure known. But not all who encounter the fairy hills are met with misfortune. There are tales of those who have been granted favor by the fairies, who have been allowed to see the wonders that lie within the mounds. These fortunate few speak of grand halls filled with light, of music so beautiful it brings tears to the eyes, of feasts laid out on tables that stretch as far as the eye can see. They speak of the fairies themselves, radiant and ageless, moving with a grace that no human could ever match. But such encounters are rare, and those who experience them often return changed, with a distant look in their eyes, as if part of them has remained in that other world. The fairy hills are more than just entrances to the other world, they are also places where the veil between worlds is thin. On certain nights, particularly during Samhain, the barrier between our world and the fairy world becomes almost non-existent. It is on these nights that the fairies are most active, slipping out from their mounds to dance in the moonlight, to weave their magic across the land. These are the nights when the wise stay indoors, leaving offerings of milk and bread at their doors to appease the fairies and keep them at bay. There is a deep respect for the fairy hills that has been passed down through generations. The people of Ireland have always understood that these mounds are not just part of the landscape, they are part of the very fabric of the world, connecting the human realm to the realm of the fairies. To harm a fairy hill is to disrupt the balance between these worlds, to invite chaos and disorder into both. And so the hills are left untouched, standing as silent witnesses to the passage of time, guarding the secrets of the otherworld. Even today, in a world that has become so modern and fast-paced, the fairy hills remain places of wonder and mystery. They are reminders of a time when the world was filled with magic, when the boundaries between the seen and the unseen were not so rigid. They are places where the imagination can run free, where the heart can feel the pull of something greater, something beyond the mundane. And perhaps, if you stand very still and listen very carefully, you might just hear the faint strains of fairy music, carried on the wind from a world just out of reach. In the heart of the Irish countryside, beneath the whispering trees and the soft blanket of the sky, there are paths and rings that hold a timeless enchantment. These are the fairy paths and rings, subtle traces left behind by the fairy folk, which weave through the landscape like delicate threads of magic. To the casual observer, these paths and rings might seem like nothing more than ordinary trails or circles of wildflowers. Yet, for those who understand, they are much more, a link to another world, a gateway to ancient mysteries. Fairy paths, often seen as worn trails cutting through fields and forests, are believed to be the routes that the fairies use when they travel between their hidden homes and the human world. These paths are not marked on any map, but are known through centuries of stories and superstitions. The grass along these paths grows differently, almost as if it has been gently brushed aside by invisible feet. They are sometimes lined with stones or marked by unusual clusters of wildflowers, which seem to grow in ways that defy natural order. To walk on a fairy path is said to be an invitation for mischief. Old tales speak of people who, by accident or curiosity, have trodden these paths, only to find themselves lost or bewildered. Time, they say, bends strangely on these paths. Hours can slip away unnoticed, and travelers might emerge from the other side feeling as if they have just walked through a dream. The fairies, ever watchful, might be playing their tricks, ensuring that those who intrude are taught a lesson in respect. Then there are the fairy rings, mysterious circles of mushrooms that appear overnight in fields or meadows. These rings are not merely a natural phenomenon but are steeped in folklore. It is said that these rings are places where the fairies dance under the moonlight, spinning their magic and weaving spells of enchantment. The mushrooms themselves seem to appear in perfect circles, a pattern so precise it feels otherworldly. These rings are often found in the most unexpected places, creating a sense of wonder and trepidation. The myths surrounding fairy rings are both enchanting and frightening. To step into a fairy ring is to risk being taken by the fairies, whisked away to their magical realm. The fairies are believed to dance in these rings until the morning light, and anyone who joins them might find themselves caught in a spell, dancing until they are exhausted or, worse, lost forever in the otherworld. It's a common belief that those who stumble into a fairy ring might be marked by the fairies, becoming a target for their mischief or enchantments. The presence of these paths and rings carries a weight of taboo and reverence. There are old customs meant to show respect for the fairy folk. It is said that one should never disturb a fairy ring or walk along a fairy path without permission. Farmers and villagers often avoid these places, especially during certain times of the year, like the harvest season or around the full moon. To interfere with the natural order of these paths and rings is to invite the fairies' wrath, a risk no one in the old ways would take lightly. In addition to the myths and superstitions, the fairy paths and rings are deeply intertwined with the natural world. They are places where the veil between the human world and the fairy realm is at its thinnest, where magic and nature blend in a delicate dance. The respect for these places is a reflection of a time when people saw themselves as part of a larger, more magical world, where the mundane and the mystical were closely linked. Walking along a fairy path or seeing a fairy ring invites a shiver down the spine, a sense of awe at the mysteries that lie just beyond the edge of human understanding. These places are not just relics of old stories, but living parts of the landscape, carrying with them the weight of centuries of belief and wonder. They are reminders of a time when magic was real, when the fairies were not just creatures of myth, but a tangible presence in the lives of those who lived close to the land. The fairy paths and rings stand as silent witnesses to a world that once was, a world where every grove, every circle of mushrooms, was alive with magic and mystery. They beckon with a promise of enchantment, a whisper of the ancient and the unknown, evoking a deep, primal sense of connection to a world that is always just out of reach, yet forever intertwined with our own. Imagine the quiet of an Irish night, where the stars blink like ancient eyes and the wind carries the faintest hint of magic. Beneath the silvery light of the moon, a soft, haunting melody begins to play. It's the music of the fairies, a sound so captivating that it makes your heart ache with both joy and sorrow. In the world of Irish folklore, fairy music and dance are not just charming stories, but vital elements of a rich cultural tapestry. This music isn't just heard, it's felt in your very soul. It speaks of old legends, forgotten dreams, and a world where enchantment is just a breath away. The fairies are said to hold the most exquisite musical talents. Their melodies are ethereal, their tunes so enchanting that anyone who hears them is drawn into a spell. They play on instruments that seem to shimmer with a light of their own. The violin, flute, and harp are their favorite tools, each note a delicate thread in a tapestry of magic and mystery. Fairy music isn't merely for pleasure. It carries a profound power. It's said that those who hear the fairies' music might be led astray, drawn into the otherworld where time stands still, and the days blend into nights of endless dancing. People have told tales of hearing fairy music on a quiet night, only to find themselves lost in a dreamlike trance, wandering until dawn. The dance of the fairies is as enchanting as their music. They are known for their midnight revels, where they twirl and spin in perfect harmony. Their dances are not just movements, but an expression of the ancient rhythms of the world. Each step and whirl is a celebration of nature's beauty, a tribute to the stars, the moon, and the ancient lands they inhabit. One of the most poignant aspects of fairy dance is its ability to bring both joy and sadness. The fairies dance in circles, often called fairy rings, where they perform their rituals and celebrations. To witness their dance is to be touched by something deeply beautiful and bittersweet. It's said that those who join the fairies in their dance might find themselves trapped in their world, dancing until they are exhausted or forever enchanted. The folklore tells of people who have tried to follow the music, only to find themselves caught in a never-ending dance. The fairies, with their mischievous smiles and twinkling eyes, might welcome you at first, but their dance is a magical trap. Once you are in their circle, escaping becomes nearly impossible. Time slips away, and the mortal world fades into the background, leaving you in a realm of eternal rhythm and light. These tales carry a deep, emotional resonance. They speak of a longing for something more, a desire to touch the magic of the unknown. The fairy music and dance evoke a sense of wonder and nostalgia, reminding us of a world where every sound and movement has meaning. They capture the delicate balance between beauty and danger, joy and sorrow, and the ever-present pull of the magical and the mundane. In Irish folklore, fairy music and dance are more than just enchanting stories. They are a window into the soul of a culture that believed deeply in the magic of the natural world. They are echoes of a time when the world was filled with wonder, and every sound and sight held the promise of something extraordinary. The fairy melodies and dances carry the essence of Ireland's ancient beliefs and the timeless allure of its folklore. They remind us that beneath the surface of everyday life, there exists a world of magic and mystery, waiting to be discovered with open hearts and curious minds. In the quiet hills of Ireland, where the land undulates like a sleeping giant, you might come across ancient structures known as raths. These round, grassy mounds are more than just remnants of a bygone era. They hold a secret that whispers through the ages, a secret of magic and mystery deeply rooted in Irish folklore. Raths, or ancient forts, are scattered across the landscape, their earthen walls and circular shapes evoking a sense of timelessness. To the untrained eye, they might seem like mere historical relics, but for those who listen to the old tales, these mounds are the very homes of the fairies. These fairy dwellings are said to be the entry points to a world that thrives just beyond the veil of our own. As dusk falls and shadows lengthen, the raths come alive in the imagination. These sacred sites are thought to be the abodes of the Tuatha Dé Danann, the ancient fairy folk who once ruled Ireland before retreating into their hidden sanctuaries. The walls of these raths are believed to be woven with enchantments, protecting the fairies from the prying eyes of mortals and preserving their secrets from the passage of time. The significance of these fairy mounds runs deep in the cultural fabric of Ireland. It is said that stepping inside a fairy rath can lead to a profound and unsettling experience. The feeling of entering such a space is both exhilarating and eerie, as if you are on the cusp of crossing into a world where reality and magic intertwine. The land around these raths holds a special kind of silence, one that seems to hum with an ancient energy. Farmers and travelers have long reported strange occurrences when they ventured too close. Animals may act restless, the air might grow heavy, and an inexplicable chill can sweep over the landscape. It's as if the fairies themselves are watching, guarding their sacred spaces with a vigilant but invisible presence. The folklore surrounding these mounds is rich with stories of people who accidentally trespassed into fairy territory. According to legend, such intrusions could bring about both wonder and woe. Some say that those who were brave or foolish enough to enter a rath might be blessed with good fortune or even a glimpse into the fairy realm. Others, however, might find themselves lost in time, their lives touched by the unpredictable whims of the fairy folk. For the Irish, these ancient forts are not merely historical sites, but living symbols of a world where the past and the present merge. They remind us of a time when the natural world was seen as a place of wonder and magic, where the hills and mounds were alive with the presence of beings that could both inspire and terrify. In the stories passed down through generations, the raths are described with a reverence that speaks of their sacred nature. The belief in the fairies' power to influence human affairs through these sites is deeply ingrained in Irish culture. It is said that disturbing a fairy wrath could bring about misfortune, while respecting these ancient places could earn the favor of the fairy folk. There is a bittersweet beauty in the tales of those who have ventured too close to these mounds. Their experiences often blend awe with a sense of foreboding, reflecting the delicate balance between wonder and danger that characterizes so much of Irish folklore. The wraiths stand as enduring reminders of a world where magic is just a heartbeat away, hidden beneath the surface of the everyday. As night descends and the moon casts its silvery glow over the landscape, the wraiths seem to pulse with an otherworldly light. The ancient stones and earthen walls become vessels of a timeless enchantment, holding the promise of dreams and the echoes of old stories. They invite us to remember a time when the land itself was alive with magic, and the fairies danced in the shadows of the ancient hills. In the heart of Ireland, amid rolling green hills and ancient stones, certain trees and wells hold a special kind of magic. These are not just ordinary parts of the landscape, but are believed to be portals to the otherworld, places where the veil between this world and the fairy realm becomes thin and fragile. Picture an old, gnarled tree standing alone on a hilltop. Its branches twist into shapes that seem to whisper secrets in the wind. This is no ordinary tree but a fairy tree, often an ash or an oak, sacred and ancient. People have long revered these trees, decorating them with ribbons, coins, and scraps of cloth as offerings to the fairies. It's said that if you make a wish and leave a small token at the base of the tree, the fairies might hear your plea and grant your wish, or at least offer a sign of their favor. Standing beneath the canopy of a fairy tree, one can feel a sense of enchantment that goes beyond mere imagination. The air seems to hum with a timeless energy, and the tree's presence feels almost sentient, as if it's listening to your thoughts and dreams. In the quiet moments, you might hear a soft rustling of leaves, like a secret conversation just out of reach. The wells scattered throughout Ireland are equally steeped in magic and mystery. These sacred springs are more than just sources of water, they are believed to be gateways to the fairy world. Often found in secluded, tranquil spots, these wells are surrounded by a sense of serene power. People would visit these wells to seek healing, blessings, or answers to their most pressing questions. They would drop coins or other small offerings into the water, believing that the fairies who dwelled there could be influenced by these gifts. At these wells, you can feel a deep connection to something greater than yourself. The water, cool and clear, seems to hold the weight of countless wishes and hopes. As you peer into its depths, it feels like looking into a timeless mirror, where the reflection is not just of your face, but of your soul's deepest desires. Legends tell of people who encountered the fairies through these trees and wells. Some speak of visions or dreams that led them to hidden knowledge or foretold future events. Others recount moments of profound serenity or sudden bursts of inspiration that seem to come from beyond. The experience of standing by a fairy tree or well often evokes a sense of wonder that stays with you long after you leave. The importance of these magical sites is woven into the fabric of Irish culture. They are more than just places, they are connections to the mystical and unseen world that coexists with our own. In every village and hamlet, stories are told of the fairies who live in these trees and wells, and the rituals performed to honor them are a testament to their significance. Respect for these sacred spots is deeply ingrained in local customs. It is considered bad luck to damage or disturb a fairy tree, and many people go out of their way to ensure that their offerings are made with genuine respect and reverence. Wells, too, are treated with great care, and people often visit them during special times of the year or when seeking solace. In a world that often feels fast-paced and disconnected from the natural magic that once enveloped everyday life, these fairy trees and wells remind us of the enchantment that still exists. They serve as quiet guardians of an ancient wisdom and a bridge to a world where the ordinary becomes extraordinary. Each visit to these sites is a step closer to touching something timeless and beautiful, a reminder that magic is never too far away, hidden just beneath the surface of our daily lives. The story of Oisín and Niamh is a timeless tale that tugs at the heartstrings, weaving a spellbinding narrative of love and loss, and the profound impact of fairy magic on the lives of mortals. Oisín, a renowned hero of Irish mythology, was the son of the legendary Finn mac Cumhaill. Known for his bravery and poetic soul, Oisin lived a life steeped in heroism and wonder. His life took a dramatic turn when he encountered Niamh, the beautiful fairy princess from the mystical land of Tir na Nog, the land of eternal youth. Their meeting was nothing short of magical, with Niamh appearing to Oisin riding a shimmering white horse. She was like a vision from a dream, radiant and ethereal, her presence so enchanting that it seemed to transcend the ordinary world. Niamh's invitation to Oisin was not just a call to another place, but a promise of eternal happiness and youth. She spoke of a land where time stood still, where the sorrows and aging that plagued mortal life would vanish. It was a tempting offer, one that promised a life of unending joy and beauty. Oisin, captivated by her grace and the allure of her otherworldly realm, accepted her invitation without hesitation. They rode together to Tir na Nog, where they lived in a paradise of enchantment and endless youth. For what seemed like a few short years, Oisin and Niamh lived in bliss, their love growing stronger with each passing day. Their happiness was a testament to the magic of the fairy realm, where every moment was filled with joy and wonder. Yet, as the years went by, Oisin began to feel a pang of longing for his homeland and the people he had left behind. Despite the paradise that surrounded him, there was a part of him that missed the mortal world and the sense of time that came with it. One day, driven by a deep yearning, Oisin asked Niamh if he could visit his homeland to see his family and friends one last time. Niamh, though heartbroken by the request, granted it with a heavy heart. She warned him to never set foot on the ground of his old world, lest he lose his eternal youth and be forever bound to the mortal realm's sorrow and decay. With a promise to return swiftly, Oisin set off on his journey back to Ireland. As he arrived, Oisin was greeted by a land that had changed beyond recognition. The Ireland he once knew was now a place of ruins and decay, a stark contrast to the eternal beauty of Tir na Nog. His family and friends were long gone, their memory a distant echo. It was as if the world had moved on, leaving him behind in a place he no longer belonged. While attempting to help people who were struggling, Oisin dismounted from his magical steed, and immediately, the enchantment of Tir na Nog began to unravel. The horse, his only link to the timeless realm, vanished, and Oisin began to age rapidly. His once youthful face grew lined, and his strong limbs became frail. The magic of the fairy land had left him, and he was now an old man, disconnected from both the fairy realm and his former life. Oisin's final moments were filled with a profound sense of loss and sadness. He realized too late that the fairy promise of eternal youth and happiness came with a price that was too steep to pay. The love he shared with Niamh was beautiful but fleeting, and the world he once knew was now a shadow of what it had been. The story of Oisin and Niamh resonates deeply with anyone who has ever felt torn between two worlds, or who has longed for something so wondrous that it feels like a dream. It's a poignant reminder of the delicate balance between the magical and the mortal, and the often harsh reality that comes with stepping away from the enchantment of one's dreams. Their tale, rich with emotion and timeless in its message, continues to capture the imagination, illustrating the bittersweet nature of love and the inevitable passage of time. The Tale of the Children of Lyre is a story that echoes through the ages, touching hearts with its profound sadness and enduring hope. It begins in a time of ancient magic, where the boundaries between the mortal world and the fairy realm were thin and easily crossed. Lyre, a noble lord of the sea, had 4 beloved children, Fionnuala, Ed, Con, and Fiachra. Their lives were a melody of joy and love, their laughter a bright note in the eternal symphony of their father's kingdom. But their happiness was marred by the dark jealousy of their stepmother, Aoife. Consumed by envy and a burning desire for power, Aoife could not bear to see the children loved more than herself. Her heart turned cold and twisted, and in a moment of cruelty, she cast a terrible spell upon them. Her dark magic transformed them into swans, their human forms melting away into sleek, white feathers. For 9 centuries, they were condemned to live on the lakes of Ireland, their only solace being each other. Imagine their sorrow as they flapped their new wings, their voices now the mournful calls of swans. The world they had known was replaced by endless waters and a sky that seemed to mock their plight. Their days were spent in isolation, their only companions the whispers of the wind and the ripples on the lake. Their father, Lyre, was heartbroken, unable to undo the spell that had been cast on his children. His love for them became a quiet, eternal lament, a song of sorrow that echoed through the ages. As the centuries passed, the children of Lyre endured the trials of their curse with grace and resilience. They lived through the rise and fall of empires, through battles and peace, through storms and calm. Each time they landed on a new lake or river, their presence was marked by a sense of melancholy and magic, for they were not merely swans, but the embodiment of a fairy tale's sadness and longing. Their story intertwines with the fairy mythology of Ireland, where the boundary between the human and the magical is both a source of wonder and a cause of sorrow. The curse of the children of Lyre reflects a deep-rooted belief in the power of enchantments and the influence of fairy magic on human lives. Their tale is a poignant reminder of the fragile nature of happiness and the often harsh consequences of envy and malice. One of the most heart-wrenching parts of their story is their final liberation. After enduring their curse for 900 years, the prophecy of their redemption finally came true. The arrival of Christianity to Ireland marked the end of their long suffering. As the bells of a new faith rang out, the children of Lyre were freed from their swan forms. They were finally restored to their human shape, but their joy was bittersweet. The world they had once known was gone, and the landscape of their homeland had changed beyond recognition. Their father, Lyre, was no longer alive to greet them, and they were left to mourn not only their lost years, but also the loss of their beloved father. The fairy magic that had once bound them was now a distant memory, replaced by the reality of an Ireland that had moved on without them. The story of the children of Lyre is a powerful symbol of the eternal struggle between the magical and the mortal, between the beauty of fairy tales and the harshness of reality. The tale stirs emotions with its blend of magic and tragedy, capturing the essence of a love that transcends time and a longing that defies the boundaries of the human heart. It reminds us of the enduring power of fairy lore to touch our lives, to make us weep, and to inspire us with its tales of sorrow and redemption. In the heart of ancient Ireland, where the mists of legend swirl through the hills, there's a tale that tugs at the heartstrings with its blend of love, loss, and enchantment. The story of Etain, the fairy queen, unfolds like a dream, filled with twists and turns that reveal the profound depth of fairy lore and human longing. Etain was no ordinary fairy. Her beauty was so remarkable that even the gods of the Otherworld were mesmerized. Her golden hair and eyes that sparkled like the morning dew made her a vision of celestial grace. But beneath this beauty lay a life marked by sorrow and heartache. Her story begins in the Otherworld, a place of magic and mystery where love and betrayal intertwine with the threads of destiny. Her tale begins with a tragic twist. Etain was married to Midir, a king of the fairy realm, who adored her deeply. Yet, their happiness was shattered by the jealousy of another fairy queen, Fuamnach. Consumed by envy and spite, Fuamnach cast a dark spell on Etain, turning her into a fly and scattering her across the mortal world. The spell's cruel design kept Etain from her beloved Midir, severing their bond and casting her into a world of fleeting moments and endless wandering. In her new form, Etain fluttered through the world, a tiny creature trapped in a cycle of transient lives and longing. Her fate was a heartbreaking one, marked by a series of lives filled with sorrow and loss. Each time she was reborn, she faced the sting of remembering her previous lives, a cycle that left her yearning for the one thing that had always eluded her, true love. In one of her incarnations, Etain was born as a beautiful maiden named Etain of the mortal world, raised in a family of nobility. This life was marked by a profound sense of isolation, a feeling of being out of place that echoed the sadness of her past existences. It was during this time that she encountered a prince named Eachad Aram, who fell deeply in love with her. Their love seemed like a chance for happiness, but the shadows of Etain's past were never far behind. Eachad, unaware of the fairy enchantment that had bound Etain's soul, loved her with all his heart. Their marriage was celebrated with great joy, but even in their bliss, there was an undercurrent of melancholy. Etain often felt the weight of her past lives, a subtle reminder of her true identity. Her dreams were haunted by the image of Midir, her lost love, and the love she had once shared with him. The gods of the Otherworld, watching from their celestial realms, took pity on Etain's plight. They decided that her torment must end, and that she should finally be reunited with her true love. They orchestrated a reunion between Etain and Midir, a moment that was both poignant and breathtaking. Their love, once pure and strong, was rekindled, transcending the boundaries of mortal and fairy worlds. However, their reunion was not without its challenges. The lingering effects of the spell and the passage of time had changed them both. Midir, although he had always loved Etain, had lived through centuries of his own trials and changes. Their reunion was bittersweet, marked by the realization that while their love was eternal, the world around them had shifted in ways they could not always understand. Etain's story is a powerful reflection of the themes of love and destiny that run through Irish mythology. It speaks to the resilience of the human spirit and the enduring nature of true love, even in the face of overwhelming odds. The tale of Etain and Midir touches the heart with its emotional depth, capturing the beauty of a love that transcends time and space. Their story resonates with the timeless struggle between the magical and the mortal, the ephemeral and the eternal. It reminds us of the power of love to overcome even the most daunting of obstacles, and the strength of the human spirit to endure and hope for what is truly meant to be. The legacy of Etain and Midir lives on in the myths and legends of Ireland, a testament to the enduring power of love and the mysteries of the Otherworld. In the heart of ancient Ireland, where the wild landscapes echo with the whispers of legends, there unfolds a love story that captures the imagination and tugs at the soul. This is the tale of Diarmuid and Grain, a story of passion, betrayal, and the haunting presence of fairies that intertwines their fates. Grain, the beautiful daughter of the High King of Ireland, was destined for a life of luxury and power. Her radiant beauty was unmatched, and her heart was caught between duty and desire. Diarmuid, a warrior of unparalleled skill and charm, was known for his bravery and the tenderness of his soul. Their paths were destined to cross, but not without the interference of the Otherworld. The story begins with a lavish feast held by Grain's father, where many suitors gathered to vie for her hand. Among them was the mighty Finn Mac Cumhale, a hero of great renown. Although he was old and weary, he had been promised Grain's hand in marriage. To the dismay of many, Grain's heart was set elsewhere. Her eyes were drawn to Diarmuid, whose presence seemed to light up the room with an unspoken promise of love and adventure. Caught in the tumultuous tides of fate, Grain's heart burned with a fierce, forbidden passion. She saw in Diarmuid not just a lover but a kindred spirit. Her love was not a simple matter of choice, but a call of the heart that seemed to echo through the very air. Yet, this love was not to be embraced without consequence. The fairies, ever watchful and enigmatic, took notice of Grain's heart's desire. They had long played a subtle role in the lives of mortals, weaving their magic into the fabric of everyday existence. Their influence in this tale was both a blessing and a curse, for the fairies were not merely spectators but active participants in the lives of the lovers. Grain, desperate and enthralled by Diarmuid, used the enchantments of the fairies to cast a spell upon him, ensuring that he would be bound to her forever. In the dim light of the fairy mounds, their magic was both beautiful and terrifying, a testament to the power they wielded over mortal hearts. Diarmuid, though mesmerized and captivated, was unaware of the full extent of the fairies' intervention. The magic of the fairies, however, came with a heavy price. Finn, discovering the betrayal and the spell, vowed to seek vengeance. The fairies, often mercurial in their dealings, did not shield the lovers from the consequences of their actions. Diarmuid and Grain were forced to flee, their love a beacon that attracted both wonder and wrath. Their journey was fraught with danger and heartache. The fairies, having set the stage for their love, now watched from the shadows as the lovers faced relentless trials. Diarmuid and Grain found themselves pursued by Finn's warriors, their escape a desperate dance through the rugged landscape of Ireland. The fairies, in their complex and often capricious nature, continued to play a role in their fate. Sometimes they offered aid, guiding the lovers through treacherous paths or providing moments of respite. At other times, they seemed to revel in the chaos, their laughter echoing through the forests as Diarmuid and Grain fought for their love against overwhelming odds. Their love story was marked by moments of profound tenderness and unrelenting hardship. In the depths of their trials, the presence of the fairies loomed large. Their magic was a constant reminder of the mystical forces at play, a backdrop to the raw and unfiltered emotions of Diarmuid and Grain. Through the endless struggle, their love remained a beacon of hope. The fairies, though enigmatic and sometimes harsh, did not wholly forsake them. Their presence was a reminder of the delicate balance between mortal desires and the otherworldly influences that shaped their lives. Diarmuid and Grain's tale, though marked by sorrow and strife, is also a testament to the enduring power of love. The fairies, with their mystical influence and unpredictable nature, played a crucial role in shaping their story. Their love, tested by trials and surrounded by enchantments, remains a powerful symbol of the intertwining of mortal and fairy worlds. The legend of Diarmuid and Grain is a haunting reminder of the ways in which the otherworldly can touch the lives of mortals, shaping their destinies and forging a bond that transcends the ordinary. It is a story that continues to resonate with the magic and mystery of the Irish landscape, where fairies and love are forever entwined in a dance of wonder and woe. In the shadowy corners of folklore, where the veil between worlds is thin, there lies a haunting theme: mortals falling in love with fairies. These stories, woven with magic and melancholy, tell of passion that transcends the ordinary, only to be met with the bittersweet sting of reality. One such tale speaks of a humble shepherd named Liam who wandered into the heart of an ancient forest. His life was simple and unremarkable, until one fateful day, he encountered a fairy named Eloan. She was a vision of otherworldly beauty, her eyes sparkling like the stars, and her laughter like the tinkling of crystal bells. Enchanted by her grace, Liam found himself drawn into her world. Their love was swift and intoxicating, as though they had known each other forever. Yet, love between a mortal and a fairy was never meant to be easy. As the days passed, Liam began to notice that Eloan was not always present. She would vanish for hours or even days, leaving him in a state of longing and uncertainty. Despite his heart's yearnings, he could never quite grasp her world. The fairy queen, Eloan's mother, looked upon their union with disapproval. She warned Eloan of the dangers of loving a mortal, but her warnings fell on deaf ears. The love between Liam and Eloan was as deep as it was doomed. One night, under a silver moon, Eloan's true nature was revealed. She had to return to her realm, and with her departure, Liam was left in the grip of a heartache that no mortal could fully understand. Another poignant tale tells of a young woman named Aisling who was bewitched by a fairy prince named Kieran. Aisling, living in a small village, had always felt out of place. Her heart yearned for something more, and when Kieran appeared, he seemed to offer an escape from her mundane life. His touch was electric, and their nights together were filled with otherworldly bliss. But love with a fairy prince came at a cost. Kieran's world was one of constant change and fleeting moments, and he could not remain in the human world forever. As seasons changed, Aisling found herself waiting, hoping for a return that grew increasingly unlikely. The fairy prince's visits became less frequent until they ceased altogether. Heartbroken and yearning, Aisling remained forever changed by a love that was as transient as a dream. The theme that runs through these tales is a sense of profound longing and the pain of unattainable love. Mortals who fall in love with fairies often experience a joy that is brief but intense, overshadowed by an inevitable sorrow. The fairies, with their enchanting presence, offer glimpses of a world that mortals can barely comprehend. Their love is a tantalizing taste of the extraordinary, but it comes with an understanding that it cannot last. These stories also highlight the clash between the ephemeral and the eternal. Fairies, bound to their mystical realm, embody a world of beauty and wonder that is forever out of reach for those of flesh and bone. Mortals, with their fleeting lives and fragile hearts, are drawn to this allure but can never fully belong to it. The love between mortals and fairies is a bridge between two worlds, built on passion and dream, but ultimately unable to withstand the weight of reality. Yet, in these tragic tales, there is a certain beauty. The encounters between mortals and fairies are rare and precious, moments of intense connection that transcend the ordinary. Though they often end in heartache, they leave behind memories that linger like the scent of a rare flower. The lovers are forever changed, carrying with them a piece of the fairy world in their hearts. The stories of fairy lovers are timeless and poignant, reminding us of the power of love to touch and transform. They are a testament to the longing for something greater, for a connection that transcends the boundaries of the known world. The consequences of such love are often painful, but they speak to the depth of human desire and the beauty found in reaching for the stars, even when the stars are forever out of reach. Imagine the whisper of ancient woods, where magic once flowed freely and the very air seemed alive with enchantment. In these forests, fairies danced in moonlit glades, their laughter like chimes of silver. But as time passed, a new force began to weave its way through these enchanted woods: Christianity. The impact of this new faith on the world of fairies transformed their ancient lore in ways that left behind a tapestry of both wonder and sorrow. Before the spread of Christianity, fairies were deeply entwined with the fabric of life in Ireland. They were seen as powerful, mystical beings who inhabited sacred places like hills, wells, and ancient trees. These spirits were a part of everyday life, believed to influence fortunes and misfortunes, and their presence was both feared and revered. Their tales spoke of otherworldly beauty and peril, of magic and mystery that defied the mundane world. But as Christianity began to take root, the landscape of folklore began to shift. The new faith brought with it a different view of the world. Fairies, once seen as powerful and awe-inspiring, were increasingly depicted as malevolent or mischievous beings. No longer were they the ancient spirits of the land, but rather creatures to be wary of, even feared. Church leaders, in their efforts to convert the people, sought to replace the old beliefs with new Christian teachings. They often painted fairies as demons or evil spirits, using fear to dissuade people from engaging with these ancient beings. The enchanting dance of fairies was recast as a dangerous temptation, their magic seen as a threat to the soul. Where once fairies had been associated with the beauty and mystery of nature, they now symbolized temptation and sin. This transformation was not merely a shift in perception, but a deep-seated change in how fairies were understood and integrated into the fabric of daily life. The lively, vibrant world of fairy folklore was being overshadowed by the rigid doctrines of Christianity. The old stories, filled with wonder and mystery, were now intertwined with warnings and moral lessons. One of the most poignant changes was the shifting landscape of fairy tales themselves. Stories that had once celebrated the enchantment of fairyland were now being told with a dark undertone. The fairy queen, once a figure of grace and power, became a symbol of seductive danger. Tales of love and magic turned into cautionary stories about the perils of straying from Christian teachings. The joyful, carefree nature of fairy encounters was replaced with stories of misfortune and moral peril. Yet, even as Christianity altered the perception of fairies, traces of the old beliefs lingered. The old tales didn't vanish entirely but adapted to fit the new framework. Fairies became symbols of the old ways, representing a world that existed on the fringes of Christian understanding. They were both a reminder of a lost magical realm and a symbol of the struggle between old and new beliefs. In some cases, the blending of fairy lore with Christian themes produced stories that were rich with emotional depth. Fairies were sometimes portrayed as tragic figures, embodying the sadness of a world that had been left behind. The tension between their ancient magic and the new religious teachings added layers of complexity to their stories. The fairies became symbols of a time when the world was filled with wonder and mystery, a time that could never quite be recaptured. The impact of Christianity on fairy lore was a process marked by loss and adaptation. The fairies, once revered as powerful spirits of the land, were gradually stripped of their former glory. They were no longer the central figures in tales of magic and adventure, but rather remnants of a bygone era, remembered with a mixture of nostalgia and wariness. Their transformation mirrored the larger changes sweeping through Ireland, as the old ways gave way to new beliefs and new ways of understanding the world. In the end, the Christianization of fairy lore reflects a broader shift in human experience. It is a story of how ancient beliefs were reshaped by new forces, and how magic and wonder were both preserved and transformed in the face of change. The fairies, with their bittersweet blend of enchantment and sorrow, stand as a testament to a world that was forever altered by the arrival of new faith and new ways of seeing. Their stories, now tinged with the weight of history, remind us of the delicate balance between the old and the new, and the enduring power of myth to capture the heart and imagination. In the heart of Ireland, where ancient stones whisper the echoes of a bygone era, legends intertwine with the misty landscape. St. Patrick, the beloved patron saint of Ireland, is remembered for his missionary work and the miraculous tales that surround him. But among these tales are stories that add an enchanting, if unsettling, layer to his legend: his encounters with the fairies. Picture the scene: a solitary figure, draped in the humble garb of a missionary, walks through the lush, emerald-green hills of Ireland. His name is Patrick, and his mission is to bring Christianity to a land steeped in ancient magic and superstition. The fairies, mysterious and elusive beings, are said to have watched him with a mix of curiosity and trepidation. One story tells of a time when St. Patrick ventured into the dense, shadowy woods, the kind where sunlight struggles to penetrate the thick canopy of trees. The fairies, known for their love of the forest, are said to have felt his presence long before he saw them. They whispered among themselves, their voices like rustling leaves, wondering what this man of God wanted in their sacred domain. As St. Patrick walked deeper into the forest, he came upon a clearing where the air shimmered with an otherworldly light. It was here, according to legend, that he encountered a fairy ring, a circle of mushrooms, perfectly arranged as if by magic. The fairies, with their ethereal beauty and mischievous eyes, were said to have danced in this very ring, their laughter echoing through the woods. St. Patrick, with his unwavering faith, saw this not as a place of wonder but as a challenge. He prayed with a fervor that seemed to shake the very air. The fairies, usually untouchable and proud, were said to have been struck by the power of his prayers. Some stories claim they even tried to lead him astray, weaving illusions to distract him. But Patrick's faith was resolute, and his prayers were believed to have banished their enchantments, leaving the clearing peaceful and silent. In another tale, St. Patrick is said to have come upon a group of fairies who were reputed to be causing trouble in a village. Their mischief had grown so severe that crops were failing, and livestock was falling ill. The villagers, desperate and afraid, turned to Patrick for help. With his compassionate heart, he went to the village and prayed for their deliverance. The fairies, disturbed by the purity of his intent, were said to have retreated into the shadows, their mischief subdued by the power of St. Patrick's faith. Yet not all interactions between St. Patrick and the fairies were marked by conflict. There are stories of mutual respect and even some semblance of harmony. One legend recounts how St. Patrick, traveling through a remote part of Ireland, found himself lost and weary. The fairies, seeing his genuine distress, guided him through the mist and darkness, leading him to safety. This act of kindness, though rare in fairy lore, highlights a more nuanced view of their relationship with the saint. The most poignant tales, however, revolve around the idea of St. Patrick as a bridge between two worlds, the mundane and the magical. In these stories, he is portrayed not just as a powerful cleric but as a figure of understanding, someone who recognized the old magic as part of the land's heritage. His interactions with the fairies were not merely confrontations, but dialogues between the sacred and the supernatural, between faith and folklore. These legends evoke a world where faith and magic coexist in a delicate balance. The fairies, often depicted as capricious and elusive, are shown here as complex beings who interact with the saint in ways that challenge our understanding of good and evil. Their encounters with St. Patrick are a reminder of the deep-seated connection between the natural world and the spiritual realm. In the end, the stories of St. Patrick and the fairies weave the tapestry of mystery and wonder. They remind us of a time when the boundaries between the sacred and the magical were fluid, and when the saint's journey was not just one of faith, but also one of bridging the divide between the known and the unknown. The fairies, with their timeless allure and elusive charm, remain a testament to the enduring magic that lingers in the heart of Ireland, even in the shadow of St. Patrick's remarkable legacy. Once revered as mighty deities of the ancient Irish world, the Tuatha Dé Danann are now often seen merely as quaint figures of folklore. Their story, once filled with grandeur and divine power, underwent a profound transformation as Christian influence began to shape the cultural landscape of Ireland. Long ago, the Tuatha Dé Danann were powerful beings, celebrated as gods and goddesses who wielded extraordinary abilities. They were the pinnacle of ancient Celtic mythology, ruling over the land with their wisdom and magic. They were thought to inhabit a realm of their own, a place of beauty and enchantment, far beyond the reach of mere mortals. Their stories brimmed with heroism, mysticism, and grandeur, casting them as the supreme figures in a world teeming with magic. As Christianity began to spread through Ireland, the landscape of belief and storytelling started to shift dramatically. The ancient gods of the Tuatha Dé Danann, once central to the fabric of life and legend, began to change in the eyes of the people. The new faith introduced different values and perspectives, challenging the old ways and reshaping the very essence of the Tuatha Dé Danann's place in the world. In the eyes of the new Christian storytellers, the grandiose tales of the Tuatha Dé Danann were reimagined to fit the evolving religious narrative. Where once the Tuatha were seen as mighty and influential gods, they were gradually diminished to mere fairies or spirits. This transformation did not come suddenly but rather unfolded slowly as old myths were adapted and retold in ways that aligned with Christian teachings. Imagine a time when the Tuatha Dé Danann, with their splendid halls and otherworldly powers, were gradually pushed from their thrones of divine glory into the shadows of folklore. Their majestic homes, once grand and resplendent, became depicted as humble fairy mounds or hidden groves. The awe-inspiring battles and magical feats were softened into charming tales of mischievous fairies who danced in moonlit glades. The beautiful and terrifying magic of the Tuatha Dé Danann was recast as whimsical or eerie fairy lore. No longer were they powerful gods who shaped the very fabric of existence. Instead, they became lesser beings who needed to be appeased or avoided. Their once legendary status was eroded, and they were relegated to the role of troublesome spirits or fairy folk, entities who were no longer feared or revered but rather regarded with a mix of curiosity and caution. The Christian influence brought a new moral framework that did not always fit with the old tales. The Tuatha Dé Danann stories were adapted to reflect the virtues of the new religion. Where they once represented the complex interplay of nature and magic, they now symbolized the enigmatic and often unsettling aspects of a world that was no longer fully understood or trusted. They became figures of folklore whose power was diminished, their ancient grandeur reduced to the faint echoes of a bygone era. This transformation had profound emotional undertones. The Tuatha Dé Danann, once the proud and noble beings of a vibrant mythology, were gradually overshadowed by the rising tide of Christianity. Their stories, rich with magic and heroism, were reinterpreted to fit within a new framework that often failed to capture their original splendor. They were no longer the towering figures of myth, but rather fading reflections of a past that was slowly being replaced by new beliefs and new stories. Despite this diminishment, the Tuatha Dé Danann did not disappear entirely. Their tales continued to resonate, albeit in a different form. They became symbols of a past that was both cherished and overshadowed, a reminder of a time when magic was real and the world was filled with wonder. The folklore that emerged preserved fragments of their ancient power, even as it recast them in roles that were far less grand than their original status. In the end, the Christianization of the Tuatha Dé Danann is a poignant reminder of how deeply cultural transformations can impact the legends and beliefs of a people. The once great deities of ancient Ireland were gently yet inexorably redefined by the new faith, their stories softened and their powers diminished. Yet even as their divine status faded, the echoes of their once great magic continued to whisper through the tales and traditions of a land forever touched by their legacy. Once upon a time, in the dim twilight of ancient Ireland, fairies danced through moonlit groves, their laughter echoing in the night. These enchanting beings were once the heart of a rich tapestry of mythology, their magic and mystery celebrated in every corner of the land. However, as the sun of Christianity rose over the Emerald Isle, the fairies' roles and stories began to shift, casting a shadow over their once resplendent presence. In the early days of Christian influence, fairies, once revered as powerful and magical entities, found themselves being woven into a new narrative, one that sought to align with Christian teachings. The vibrant and sometimes fearsome figures of old were transformed into something more complex, their stories now reflecting the values and perspectives of the new religion. The transformation was subtle, yet profound. Where once fairies were celebrated as majestic beings with their own realms and powers, they were now seen through a lens colored by Christian doctrine. They became less the divine entities of ancient myth and more the ethereal, sometimes troubling figures of folklore. In the Christianized versions of these stories, fairies often took on a different role. No longer were they the mighty Tuatha Dé Danann, ruling with their own brand of magic and splendor. Instead, they became enigmatic spirits, sometimes seen as remnants of a forgotten world. Their once clear roles as gods or nature spirits became blurred, and they were portrayed with a mix of fascination and caution. Christian folktales often depicted fairies as beings caught between worlds. They were seen as neither wholly malevolent nor benevolent, but as creatures whose actions could sway between kindness and mischief. They were now viewed as a bridge between the human world and the supernatural, embodying the fear and wonder that came with the unknown. These tales also reflected the new moral landscape of Christian Ireland. Fairies, in these stories, were often portrayed as beings whose actions were influenced by the moral decisions of humans. The new narratives wove lessons of virtue and piety into the interactions between mortals and fairies. The once fearsome fairy queen, who might have inspired awe or dread, was now sometimes shown as a figure whose whims could be appeased or angered through proper behavior and devotion. Consider a story where a fairy, once a proud and majestic figure of the ancient world, now appears as a more subdued and mysterious presence. A Christianized tale might feature a fairy who offers aid or protection in exchange for pious behavior or charitable acts, turning her once powerful magic into a tool for reinforcing the new moral order. The fairy's benevolence or malice is often directly tied to the human character's adherence to Christian values, weaving a new layer of moral significance into the old myths. In another tale, a fairy might be portrayed as a trickster whose mischief is both a test and a lesson. Her actions, once driven by ancient magical impulses, are now seen as opportunities for humans to demonstrate their faith and virtue. The magical challenges she presents become allegories for spiritual trials, and the resolution of these challenges often hinges on the character's ability to navigate their moral and spiritual responsibilities. These transformed stories highlight the deep impact of Christian teachings on the perception of fairies. The magical beings of old were reshaped to fit within a new framework that sought to reconcile the old world with the new. The fairies' roles were softened and their stories reimagined to align with Christian morals and beliefs. Yet, in their new forms, they continue to captivate the imagination, serving as reminders of a past world where magic and the divine were intertwined. Even as their roles changed, the emotional resonance of these fairy tales remained. The stories continue to evoke the sense of wonder and mystery that had always been associated with fairies. They became symbols of the enduring tension between the old ways and the new, representing a world where ancient beliefs and new faith coexisted in complex and often bittersweet harmony. The portrayal of fairies in Christianized Irish folktales offers a poignant reflection on how deeply culture and belief systems can influence each other. As the fairies' roles were transformed, they became emblematic of a transitional period, where the old magic was tempered by new values and the mystical was reinterpreted through the lens of faith. These stories are a testament to the enduring power of folklore, even as it adapts to the changing tides of belief and culture. On a still, moonlit night, when the stars shimmer like diamonds in the sky, fairies are said to dance in the shadows of ancient oak trees and whisper secrets to the wind. These delicate beings, so entwined with the natural world, have long been symbols of nature's profound mystery and beauty. From the gentle rustle of leaves to the vibrant bloom of wildflowers, fairies have always been more than just enchanting creatures of folklore. They are reflections of the natural world itself, a vivid embodiment of nature's essence and its untamed spirit. In ancient tales and timeless legends, fairies are intimately connected to the rhythms and wonders of the earth. They are the guardians of the wild, the keepers of secrets that lie in the heart of forests, and the custodians of the delicate balance between all living things. Consider the ancient oak tree, with its sprawling branches and deep roots. In many myths, this mighty tree is home to a fairy queen or an entire fairy court. The oak, revered for its strength and endurance, becomes a symbol of the fairy realm, where magic breathes life into every crevice and shadow. The fairies are seen as the protectors of such sacred spaces, their presence a sign that nature's magic is alive and well. Fairies also inhabit the meadows and glens, where wildflowers sway and the breeze carries the scent of fresh earth. In these places, they are not just passive observers but active participants in the dance of the seasons. They are seen as the very embodiment of the flowers they tend and the streams they sing to. Their laughter is said to mingle with the babbling of brooks, creating a symphony that celebrates the natural world's beauty and bounty. One might think of a quiet glade where sunlight filters through the canopy, casting dappled patterns on the forest floor. Here, fairies are not merely visitors but integral parts of the ecosystem. They are often depicted as nurturing the land, encouraging plants to grow and flowers to bloom. Their delicate hands are believed to coax the first shoots of spring from the earth and guide the colors of autumn leaves to their brilliant hues. Through their magic, they ensure that nature flourishes and that each season transitions smoothly into the next. In folklore, fairies are also linked to the changing of the seasons. As spring awakens the world from its winter slumber, fairies are said to be the first to feel the stirrings of new life. They emerge from their hidden realms, bringing with them the promise of renewal and growth. In the summer, they revel in the abundance of nature, their joy reflected in the lushness of the world around them. When autumn arrives, they are the silent witnesses to the falling leaves, their presence a reminder of nature's cycle of life and death. And as winter settles in, they retreat to their hidden homes, resting and waiting for the world to turn once more. The connection between fairies and nature is not just about their presence in natural settings, but also about the way they are seen as part of the natural order. They are often viewed as guardians of the land, ensuring that nature remains untamed and wild. In many stories, disturbing a fairy's realm or breaking a sacred grove is believed to bring misfortune. This reverence for their territory reflects a deep respect for nature and its mysteries. It's as if the fairies themselves are the living embodiment of nature's enchantment, reminding humans to honor and protect the world around them. Fairies also symbolize the profound, often inexplicable, beauty of the natural world. Their magical qualities highlight nature's wonder, how a single dewdrop on a spider's web can sparkle like a gem, how the wind can sing through the trees, and how the night sky can be a canvas of stars. By embodying nature's mysteries, fairies evoke a sense of awe and appreciation for the world's intricate and delicate beauty. In their role as symbols of nature, fairies embody the idea that the natural world is alive with magic and wonder. They remind us that the beauty of the earth is not just something to be admired, but something to be cherished and protected. Their stories and presence in folklore serve as a timeless testament to the deep connection between humanity and the natural world, a connection that is as old as the hills and as enduring as the stars in the night sky. As we walk through forests, meadows, and gardens, we are reminded of the fairies who, though unseen, are always there. Their presence invites us to pause and appreciate the simple, magical moments of nature, be it the play of light through leaves or the gentle hum of bees among blossoms. Fairies, in their ethereal way, are forever intertwined with the natural world, and through their stories, they continue to inspire a sense of wonder and respect for the beauty and mystery of the earth. When we think of fairies, the first images that often come to mind are of delicate, winged beings dancing in moonlit glades or mischievous sprites playing tricks on unsuspecting mortals. But beyond their enchanting appearances and whimsical actions, fairies also hold a profound place in our inner worlds. These mythical beings, with their magic and mystery, are reflections of the human psyche, symbols of our deepest fears, desires, and dreams. Fairies, in many ways, are a window into our own minds, capturing the complexities of our emotions and the struggles we face. They represent the parts of ourselves that are hidden, mysterious, and often beyond our full understanding. In the stories we tell about fairies, we see mirrors of our inner lives, projecting our hopes and anxieties onto these fantastical creatures. One of the most powerful aspects of fairy lore is how it delves into the nature of human desire and longing. Fairies often appear in tales as beings of incredible beauty and allure, embodying the idealized forms of love and happiness that many people yearn for. They can represent our deepest desires for connection and joy, offering a glimpse of a world where all our dreams might come true. Yet, their elusive nature reminds us that such perfection is often just out of reach, a tantalizing promise that can be both thrilling and heartbreaking. In folklore, fairies are frequently depicted as capricious and unpredictable, reflecting the unpredictable nature of our own emotions and desires. Their whimsical behavior and sudden shifts in mood can mirror the turbulence of our inner lives. Just as fairies can shift from benevolent to malevolent, our feelings and desires can shift with equal intensity, influenced by the tides of our personal experiences and inner conflicts. The interaction between humans and fairies in stories often highlights themes of transformation and change. Fairies can be agents of profound change, capable of altering a person's fate or leading them on unexpected journeys. This ability to influence and transform reflects our own struggles with change and adaptation. When we confront the fairy tales of our culture, we are faced with our own fears about change, the unknown, and the unpredictable twists of life. Fairy tales also delve into the idea of temptation and moral choices. Many stories feature fairies that offer magical rewards or perilous challenges, testing the character's resolve and integrity. These tales often highlight the consequences of giving in to temptation or the value of staying true to one's principles. Through these narratives, we explore the moral dilemmas that we face in our own lives, examining how our choices shape our destinies and how we navigate the complex landscape of right and wrong. Moreover, fairies often symbolize the aspects of life that are beyond our control. They inhabit a world of magic and mystery, a realm where the ordinary rules of reality do not apply. This can represent our own feelings of helplessness or uncertainty, the sense that there are forces in our lives that we cannot fully understand or influence. By engaging with the fairy world, we confront the limits of our own power and grapple with the uncertainties that come with being human. In their role as guardians of the natural world, fairies also represent our connection to nature and the profound, often unconscious, aspects of our psyche. The stories of fairies living in forests, by rivers, or among the flowers remind us of our own relationship with the environment and the natural rhythms that govern our lives. Fairies, in their beauty and strangeness, echo the awe and wonder we feel when we encounter the sublime in nature, as well as the fear of the unknown that often accompanies such encounters. Ultimately, fairies offer a glimpse into the most intimate corners of our own minds. They are not just magical creatures of folklore, but reflections of our inner worlds, our desires, fears, moral struggles, and our connection to the natural world. By engaging with the stories and symbols of fairies, we touch on the profound and often mysterious aspects of our own psyche, exploring the emotional landscapes that define our humanity. In the hush of twilight, when shadows stretch long and the veil between worlds grows thin, fairies emerge as the quiet sentinels of a hidden realm. They are not merely whimsical creatures of old tales, but revered as the guardians and guides to the otherworld, a place of mystery and wonder. Picture the moment when the evening sky darkens and the stars begin to twinkle. In those fleeting hours, fairies are said to walk between the worlds, holding the delicate balance that separates the familiar from the fantastical. Their role as protectors of the otherworld is steeped in ancient belief, where they serve as both gatekeepers and guides to a realm beyond mortal understanding. Fairies, with their ethereal presence, are often seen as custodians of the otherworld's secrets. Their homes are hidden in the folds of nature, nestled within ancient trees, or beneath the surface of still waters. These places are not just beautiful landscapes, they are the thresholds to a world where time flows differently and where the spirit of magic is ever present. The fairies' role is crucial. They are the ones who ensure that the boundary between the known world and the otherworld remains undisturbed. Their guardianship is not merely about protection, it is also about guidance. In the folklore of many cultures, fairies are believed to lead the lost and the weary to this hidden world. Whether through a maze of misty paths or enchanted forests, they offer a way to the otherworld to those who seek it. This journey is often a test of one's heart and spirit, reflecting a deep yearning for something greater than the mundane. Consider the ancient tales where mortals find themselves at the edge of the otherworld. Fairies, with their luminous presence and soothing voices, beckon these individuals into a realm of eternal beauty and timeless wonder. Yet, entering this realm is not without its trials. Fairies guide with both kindness and caution, aware of the risks that come with crossing into their domain. They know the allure of the otherworld is strong, and they protect their realm not just from intruders but from those who might be unprepared for its enchantments. The connection between fairies and the otherworld also holds a deeper meaning. These mythical beings are often portrayed as possessing a wisdom that transcends human understanding. They are seen as keepers of ancient knowledge and secrets, offering glimpses into truths that lie beyond the physical world. In this role, they become intermediaries between the seen and unseen, offering guidance to those who seek to understand the deeper mysteries of existence. Fairies' role as guardians is also reflected in their ability to offer protection and healing. In many stories, fairies are depicted as having the power to heal the sick or bless the land with fertility and abundance. Their protective nature extends to safeguarding the sanctity of the otherworld, ensuring that its beauty and magic remain intact for those who are worthy to witness it. Moreover, the fairies' role is intertwined with the themes of transition and transformation. The otherworld is often portrayed as a place of change, where souls undergo journeys of growth and renewal. Fairies help guide individuals through these transitions, assisting them as they move from one state of being to another. Their presence is both comforting and empowering, providing strength and courage to those embarking on these profound journeys. In stories and folklore, the otherworld is not just a destination but a state of being, an eternal place where the soul finds solace and renewal. Fairies, as its guardians, are instrumental in guiding individuals through their experiences, ensuring that the passage to this realm is both meaningful and safe. They are the silent witnesses to the journey of the soul, offering both protection and insight as one traverses the boundaries between worlds. The emotional resonance of fairies as guardians of the otherworld speaks to our own deep-seated desires for connection with something greater than ourselves. They represent the hope that there is a realm of wonder and magic waiting just beyond our grasp, where our deepest questions might be answered and our spirits find peace. Their role as protectors and guides embodies the timeless longing for understanding and the quest for something beyond the ordinary. As we reflect on the role of fairies in guarding the otherworld, we touch upon our own sense of mystery and wonder. Fairies remind us of the delicate balance between our world and the realms that lie just out of sight, offering a glimpse into the profound and enchanting possibilities that await beyond the veil of everyday life. Imagine a world where the ordinary is turned upside down with a mere flick of a wand, where the boundaries of reality are blurred by playful mischief. Fairies, in their trickster role, embody this enchantment, weaving chaos and wonder in equal measure. Their trickster nature is not just about mischief, it carries deep significance and emotional resonance in folklore. In many tales, fairies are known for their clever tricks and unpredictable behavior. They play pranks on the unsuspecting, causing things to disappear, swapping objects, or leading people astray. These tricks often seem harmless at first glance, but they carry a deeper meaning, reflecting the unpredictable nature of the magical world they inhabit. The fairies' ability to disrupt the ordinary world with their antics shows their power and their role as agents of change and surprise. The trickster aspect of fairies speaks to the heart of human experience. Just as fairies twist reality, they mirror the way life itself can be full of unexpected turns. They remind us of the delicate balance between order and chaos, highlighting the vulnerability of our everyday routines. When a fairy's prank causes someone to lose their way or find their belongings mysteriously changed, it's more than just a joke, it's a reflection of life's unpredictability and the necessity to adapt. Consider the story of a traveler who, on a moonlit night, stumbles upon a fairy circle. Enchanted by the beauty and allure of the scene, they step inside, only to find themselves caught in a world of whimsy and bewilderment. The fairies' laughter echoes around them as the traveler experiences time slipping away, objects appearing and disappearing, and their own sense of reality being turned inside out. This encounter is both enchanting and disorienting, capturing the essence of how fairies can manipulate and challenge our perceptions of the world. Fairies as tricksters also highlight the importance of humility and caution. Their tricks often teach valuable lessons about human nature and the limits of control. For instance, a story might involve a character who, in their arrogance, tries to outwit the fairies, only to find themselves on the receiving end of a more elaborate trick. These tales serve as a reminder of the fairies' power and the wisdom of humility in the face of forces greater than ourselves. The emotional impact of fairy tricksters is profound. They provoke laughter, surprise, and sometimes even frustration, but their actions often lead to personal growth. When fairies play tricks, they challenge individuals to reconsider their perspectives, embrace flexibility, and find joy in the unexpected. The laughter and frustration caused by their antics create a space for reflection and transformation, encouraging people to approach life with a sense of wonder and adaptability. Moreover, the trickster role of fairies connects to the broader themes of transformation and balance. In many cultures, tricksters are seen as agents of change, disrupting the status quo to bring about new understandings and perspectives. Fairies, with their playful and unpredictable nature, embody this role perfectly. Their tricks are not just random acts of mischief, they are a means of exploring the boundaries of reality and fostering growth through surprise and challenge. Through their pranks, fairies reveal the fragile line between the mundane and the magical, inviting us to see the world in a new light. They challenge us to let go of rigid expectations and embrace the spontaneity of life. This playful disruption serves as a catalyst for personal and spiritual growth, encouraging a deeper connection with the mysteries of existence. The emotional depth of fairy tricksters lies in their ability to transform ordinary moments into extraordinary experiences. They remind us that even in the midst of chaos and confusion, there is beauty and wonder to be found. Their tricks and antics, though disruptive, are ultimately a celebration of the unpredictable and magical aspects of life. In folklore, fairies as tricksters are a testament to the power of magic and the human spirit. Their pranks, though seemingly mischievous, carry a deeper significance that resonates with the heart. They remind us that life is a delicate dance between order and chaos, and that the unexpected twists and turns can lead to moments of profound insight and joy. In the quiet corners of old villages, under ancient trees, and in the gentle whispers of the wind, the echoes of fairy tales have lingered through centuries. Even as the world has marched forward, modernizing and changing at an astonishing pace, the belief in fairies has persisted, weaving itself into the fabric of daily life and heart. Consider a small, weathered cottage nestled deep in the Irish countryside, where the line between the real and the magical seems almost imperceptible. Here, an old woman tells her grandchildren stories of the fairies who live in the glens and hills. Their presence is real to her as the earth beneath her feet. Her tales, filled with wonder and caution, are more than just stories. They are a bridge to a world that has never fully vanished from human imagination. Fairy beliefs have a remarkable way of enduring through the ages. They have survived through stories told by generations, their charm and mystery captivating hearts young and old. Despite the relentless march of modernity, where technology and reason often overshadow the mystical, the allure of fairies remains strong, a testament to their deep-rooted place in human culture. Even in the bustling cities where the noise of progress drowns out the whispers of ancient magic, traces of fairy belief persist. Urban legends of encounters with mysterious beings in parks and old buildings hint at a lingering belief in the unseen. People still tell tales of lights seen dancing in the woods or hear stories of voices calling from the shadows, holding onto the hope that the magical world is just beyond reach, waiting to be discovered. The survival of fairy beliefs is not just about preserving old stories, it's about maintaining a connection to something timeless and deeply human. Fairies, with their mischievous and benevolent natures, represent a link to a world of wonder, a reminder that the ordinary can still hold magic. Their continued presence in literature, art, and popular culture speaks to an enduring need to believe in the fantastic, to find beauty and mystery in the everyday. The survival of fairy beliefs can also be seen in the rituals and customs that have been passed down through generations. In many places, traditions still honor the fairies with offerings or special ceremonies, reflecting a deep respect and a desire to keep the old ways alive. These practices, often carried out in secret or with great reverence, are a living testament to the enduring power of fairy lore. The charm of fairy tales continues to resonate in modern storytelling. Films, books, and games keep the fairy world vibrant and relevant, allowing new generations to experience the wonder and mystery that has captivated humanity for so long. These modern interpretations, while sometimes vastly different from ancient stories, still carry the essence of the fairy belief, the magic, the mystery, and the sense that there is more to the world than meets the eye. Through all these layers of belief, there is an underlying thread of hope and wonder that keeps fairy lore alive. It's the belief that no matter how much the world changes, there will always be a place for magic and enchantment. Fairies, in their many forms, serve as a reminder that the world is filled with unseen wonders and that there is always room for a touch of the extraordinary in the ordinary. The survival of fairy beliefs through the centuries is a testament to their power and their place in the human heart. They remind us that even in the face of relentless change and progress, the magic of belief endures. Each story told, each tradition kept alive, and each whisper of fairy magic serves as a link to a past that still has the power to touch our hearts and stir our imaginations. In the dim light of a flickering hearth, where the shadows dance with ancient whispers, fairies have always held a special place in Irish literature. Their enchanting presence weaves through the pages of history, capturing hearts and imaginations from the medieval times to the present day. Each story, poem, and tale holds a fragment of their elusive magic, painting fairies not just as figures of folklore but as reflections of the human soul. Picture a medieval scribe, penning words by candlelight, crafting tales of the Selkies, the fairy folk of Irish myth. In these early texts, fairies were portrayed with an air of mystery and wonder, their actions both mesmerizing and perilous. They lived in an enchanted realm just out of reach, where they could influence the world of humans with a mere glance or a gentle touch. Their lives were woven into the very fabric of nature, a delicate balance of beauty and danger. In the ancient sagas and epic poems, fairies were often depicted as otherworldly beings with a profound connection to the natural world. They danced in moonlit glades and whispered secrets through the rustling leaves. Their world was one of magic and mystery, where time itself seemed to bend, and ordinary rules no longer applied. These early portrayals painted fairies as ethereal and majestic, beings whose enchantments could bring both blessings and curses. As the centuries passed and Irish literature evolved, so did the portrayal of fairies. The 18th and 19th centuries brought a shift in how fairies were depicted. They began to appear more frequently in the works of romantic poets and writers, who saw in them a symbol of an idyllic past and a yearning for the mysterious. The fairies of this era were often depicted as delicate, whimsical creatures, embodying the spirit of a bygone age. They were charming and playful, their interactions with humans marked by a sense of nostalgia and longing. In the writings of W.B. Yeats, fairies took on a more nuanced role. Yeats, deeply influenced by Irish folklore, explored the darker, more complex aspects of fairy mythology. His fairies were not just whimsical beings, but also enigmatic entities with their own agendas and desires. Yeats saw them as symbols of a deeper, mystical truth, representing a connection to a world beyond the mundane. His fairies were both alluring and dangerous, embodying the dual nature of the mystical realm. The 20th century and beyond brought new perspectives and interpretations of fairies in Irish literature. Modern authors, while still drawing from traditional folklore, began to explore fairies through different lenses. In some works, fairies are portrayed as figures of resistance against the encroachments of modernity. They represent a yearning for a simpler, more magical past, a reminder of the enchanting world that once was. In contemporary literature, fairies have continued to captivate writers and readers alike. They appear in various forms, from the dark and brooding to the light and playful. Some modern works reimagine fairies in new and innovative ways, blending ancient lore with contemporary themes. These portrayals often reflect the changing nature of society and the enduring power of fairy tales to evoke wonder and emotion. The role of fairies in Irish literature is not just about their presence in stories, but also about what they represent. They embody the magic that exists just beyond the everyday, a reminder of the extraordinary hidden within the ordinary. Through the ages, fairies have served as symbols of both beauty and danger, joy and sorrow. Their portrayal in literature reflects the changing fears, hopes, and dreams of each era, offering a window into the collective imagination. Each story, poem, or piece of writing that features fairies adds to the rich tapestry of their lore. From medieval manuscripts to modern novels, fairies continue to enchant and inspire, their presence a testament to the enduring power of myth and imagination. They remind us that even in a world dominated by reason and logic, there is always room for magic and mystery. In the heart of Ireland, where the mist kisses the rolling hills and ancient forests whisper secrets of old, fairies continue to captivate the modern imagination. Their enchanting presence lingers, influencing contemporary Irish culture in ways that stir the soul and evoke a deep sense of wonder. Imagine walking through a bustling Irish village, where the cobbled streets are lined with quaint shops and lively pubs. In the midst of everyday life, fairy symbols and stories weave into the fabric of daily existence. Fairy-themed festivals celebrate the magic of these mythical beings, transforming ordinary spaces into realms of enchantment. Local artisans craft delicate fairy ornaments, their designs reflecting age-old tales passed down through generations. These objects are not just souvenirs, but carry the essence of a living tradition, a reminder of Ireland's rich mythological heritage. In modern Irish homes, the influence of fairy mythology can be seen in the simplest of ways. Children's books are filled with stories of fairies, their adventures sparking imagination and wonder in young minds. These tales often blend traditional folklore with contemporary themes, helping to keep the magic alive for new generations. Fairy tales teach values, inspire creativity, and offer a touch of magic in a world that sometimes feels too mundane. The magic of fairies also finds its way into Irish festivals and cultural events. St. Patrick's Day, with its vibrant parades and lively celebrations, often features fairy-themed floats and decorations. Fairy lore becomes a backdrop to the festivities, adding a layer of enchantment to the celebrations. The ancient myth of the fairies is woven into modern traditions, bridging the gap between past and present. Local legends and customs that involve fairies continue to influence how people view and interact with the world around them. Many Irish people still follow traditions that honor these mythical beings, such as leaving offerings at fairy trees or mounds. These practices are not just about preserving folklore, but about keeping a connection to a magical past that feels very much alive in the present. In contemporary Irish literature and media, fairies are portrayed with both reverence and innovation. Writers and filmmakers draw upon traditional fairy tales, but infuse them with modern sensibilities. This blending of old and new allows fairies to remain relevant and captivating, reflecting both the timeless allure of these mythical beings and the ever-changing nature of Irish culture. Celtic symbols, often associated with fairies, are a common sight in modern Irish art and design. Tattoos, jewelry, and home decor feature intricate designs inspired by fairy lore, connecting personal identity with cultural heritage. These symbols are more than mere decorations, they represent a link to a magical world that still holds sway over the hearts of many. The enduring presence of fairies in Irish culture serves as a bridge between the past and the present. They remind people of a time when the world was full of wonder and magic, and they offer a sense of continuity with a rich cultural heritage. Even as Ireland evolves and changes, the fairy tales and traditions remain a cherished part of its identity. In conversations and gatherings, fairy lore often comes alive through storytelling and shared memories. These stories carry the weight of history and personal connection, reflecting how deeply ingrained fairy mythology is in the Irish psyche. They are a way for people to connect with their heritage, share a sense of wonder, and keep the magic of fairies alive in their hearts. The influence of fairy mythology on modern Irish culture is a testament to the power of stories and traditions to shape and enrich contemporary life. Fairies are not just figures from ancient lore, but living symbols of a rich and magical heritage that continues to inspire and enchant. Through festivals, art, literature, and personal practices, the magic of fairies endures, reminding everyone of the extraordinary hidden within the ordinary. In the quiet corners of Ireland, where the wild landscapes and ancient traditions meet, fairies leap from the pages of books and legends into the world of art and music. These ethereal beings, with their delicate wings and enchanting smiles, have long inspired a wealth of creative expression that captures the heart and soul of the Irish experience. Walk through any Irish gallery, and you'll find paintings and sculptures that bring the fairy realm to life. Artists, both old and new, have sought to capture the magic and mystery of these mythical creatures. Their works often depict fairies dancing in moonlit glades, surrounded by the soft glow of fireflies and the vibrant colors of wildflowers. Each brushstroke seems to whisper the secrets of an ancient world where fairies roam free, untouched by time. In the art of Ireland, fairies are not just imagined but lived. From the intricate designs of medieval manuscripts to the bold colors of contemporary canvases, fairies are portrayed in a way that evokes wonder and nostalgia. The art often captures their playfulness and beauty, but also hints at their elusive and mysterious nature. Each piece invites viewers to step into a world where magic is real and the impossible becomes possible. Music in Ireland also sings the praises of fairies, weaving their stories into melodies that touch the heart. Traditional Irish folk music is rich with tales of fairy encounters and magical realms. The lilting tunes of the fiddle and the haunting notes of the flute often carry themes of fairy lore, evoking images of otherworldly dances and ethereal landscapes. Songs about fairies tell stories of love and loss, of enchantment and sorrow, blending the mystical with the deeply human. One of the most touching aspects of Irish music is how it captures the fleeting moments of fairy encounters. A gentle melody might conjure the feeling of a midnight dance under the stars, while a sorrowful tune might express the heartache of a mortal who has lost their fairy love. The music not only reflects the stories of fairies, but also the emotions they evoke: wonder, longing, and the bittersweet realization of their elusive nature. Fairies also inspire modern artists and musicians who bring fresh perspectives to this timeless theme. Contemporary works often blend traditional fairy elements with new styles, creating art and music that resonate with today's audiences while honoring ancient traditions. This fusion of old and new keeps the magic of fairies alive, making them relevant and captivating for a new generation. In every note and brushstroke, fairies are portrayed as symbols of both beauty and mystery. They represent the delicate balance between the known and the unknown, the tangible and the intangible. Through art and music, they offer a glimpse into a world where the ordinary becomes extraordinary, where dreams and reality intertwine. As you listen to a fairy-inspired melody or gaze upon a painting of these mystical beings, you are transported to a place where magic is real and the impossible is within reach. The art and music of Ireland celebrate the enchantment of fairies, capturing their spirit and keeping their legends alive for all to experience. Close your eyes and picture a moonlit night, where magic seems to dance just out of reach. In one corner of the world, Irish fairies flit through ancient woodlands, their laughter mingling with the whispers of the wind. But across the globe, in cultures far removed from the lush hills of Ireland, similar magical beings weave their own enchanting tales. In the folklore of many cultures, fairies and their counterparts hold a special place, each embodying the spirit of their lands yet echoing a universal charm. Imagine the nimble fairies of Ireland, known for their mischief and elusive nature, and then turn your gaze to the Japanese kitsune. These fox spirits, with their ability to transform and their magical prowess, have captivated the imagination for centuries. Kitsune, like the Irish fairies, straddle the line between the human and the supernatural. They can be benevolent protectors or cunning tricksters, their actions steeped in the deep mysteries of the natural world. Traveling further west to the heart of Europe, you'll encounter the alluring fae of Scottish and English lore. These beings, much like their Irish cousins, are known for their beauty and their capriciousness. Yet, they often carry a darker edge. While Irish fairies might lure you into their dances with promises of eternal youth, their Scottish counterparts, such as the brownies, might help with household chores, if only you remember to leave a bowl of milk out for them. The overlap of these traditions shows a fascinating blend of the familiar and the strange. In the vast plains of Africa, the myth of the Tochalash, a mischievous spirit known to cause trouble, shares a curious kinship with the fairies of the Celtic world. The Tochalash, much like the fairies, is known for its trickery, able to become invisible to slip into people's homes and create chaos. The sense of mischief and the unseen presence of these beings link them with the fairy lore of Ireland, though they come from a vastly different cultural landscape. Venturing into the rich tapestry of Native American folklore, the connection with fairies takes on a unique form through the stories of spirits like the Wendigos. These beings are not exactly fairies, but their supernatural qualities and their influence over human affairs share thematic similarities. The Wendigos, often depicted as malevolent and frightening, embody the fears and mysteries of the natural world, much like the darker aspects of fairy tales. The vast world of folklore is dotted with magical beings, each reflecting the hopes, fears, and dreams of their cultures. From the benevolent yet mysterious nature of the Irish fairies to the shape-shifting kitsune of Japan, these entities reveal a common thread of enchantment that spans across the globe. Their tales, rich with wonder and caution, show how different cultures grapple with the mysteries of life through their own magical narratives. As these stories travel from one culture to another, they carry with them the echoes of human imagination. Whether they are the playful spirits of Irish folklore, the trickster foxes of Japan, or the mischievous tokelashes of Africa, they all remind us of the universal allure of the magical and the unknown. In their own ways, they capture our hearts and imaginations, bridging gaps between the familiar and the fantastic. There's something undeniably enchanting about the shimmer of moonlight over an ancient Irish glen, where shadows whisper of mysteries beyond our world. The idea of fairies, those elusive creatures from Irish mythology, casts a spell that has fascinated people for centuries. Their allure is timeless, captivating hearts with a blend of wonder and trepidation. Imagine a young child standing on a grassy hill, eyes wide with excitement as the sun dips below the horizon. The air grows cool, and a sense of magic seems to stir. In tales told by firelight, fairies are often described as shimmering figures, dancing on the edge of the known world. Their presence is hinted at in the rustle of leaves and the fleeting glimpse of something not quite tangible. These stories breathe life into the night, offering a glimpse into a realm where the ordinary becomes extraordinary. The fairies of Irish mythology are as varied as the landscape of Ireland itself. Some tales speak of their playful mischief, like the mischievous leprechauns hiding pots of gold. Others tell of their darker side, where they are seen as vengeful spirits, capable of causing misfortune or leading travelers astray. Yet, despite their dual nature, there is a profound sense of enchantment that surrounds them. This duality, the beautiful and the menacing, adds layers to their mystery, making them both captivating and eerie. One of the most intriguing aspects of fairies is their connection to the natural world. They are believed to inhabit the hidden corners of our world, ancient trees, sacred wells, and forgotten mounds. These places, often shrouded in mist, become the gateways to their magical domain. The idea that fairies dwell in these spaces fosters a deep sense of wonder and respect for nature. It's as if these mythical beings are a reminder of the magic that lies just beyond our senses, waiting to be discovered. For centuries, the tales of fairies have woven themselves into the very fabric of Irish culture. They appear in folklore, literature, and even the rituals of ancient ceremonies. Yet, despite their long history, their charm remains undiminished. They continue to inspire artists, writers, and dreamers. In the quiet moments of reflection, people find solace in the idea that there is more to life than what meets the eye, a hidden world filled with enchantment and possibility. The stories of fairies are not just about the beings themselves, but about the emotions and themes they evoke. They stir a sense of wonder, nostalgia, and sometimes fear. They remind us of a time when magic felt real and the boundaries between the natural and supernatural were blurred. This persistent sense of mystery keeps the fairy lore alive, inviting each new generation to imagine the world beyond their everyday reality. What makes the fairy stories so compelling is their ability to touch something deep within us. They resonate with the part of us that longs for magic and mystery, that wants to believe in something greater than ourselves. The fairies of Irish mythology, with their beauty and their enigma, embody this longing perfectly. They stand as a symbol of the mysterious forces that shape our world, offering a glimpse into a realm that is always just out of reach. As night falls and the stars twinkle in the vast sky, the stories of fairies continue to cast their spell. The enduring mystery of these beings keeps them alive in our hearts and minds. They remind us of the magic that lingers in the world, the wonder that can be found in the simplest of moments. In every whisper of the wind and every flicker of moonlight, their presence is felt, a timeless reminder of the enchantment that lies just beyond the veil of the everyday. In a world increasingly driven by technology and science, the whisper of fairies still holds a magical allure. The idea of these ethereal beings, who once danced in ancient forests and whispered secrets to the wind, seems almost out of place in our modern age. Yet, the fascination with fairies endures, hinting at their ability to adapt and thrive even as the world around them changes. Picture a bustling city, full of noise and hurried footsteps, where people rush past one another, lost in their digital devices. Amid this whirlwind of modernity, there is a quiet corner, a park, perhaps, or an old, ivy-clad building, where the stories of fairies still flicker like a distant star. Here, the old tales blend with the new, creating a space where magic and reality intermingle in surprising ways. Fairies, in their traditional sense, have always been more than just whimsical creatures. They are symbols of the unknown and the unexplained. In a world where scientific reasoning often rules, the idea of fairies offers a comforting escape from the harshness of reality. They remind us that there is still room for wonder and mystery, even in our fast-paced, high-tech lives. They are a bridge to a time when the world felt more enchanted, and where magic was a real possibility. The future of fairy lore in Ireland might very well hinge on how we choose to carry these stories forward. In a society that is constantly evolving, the challenge is to preserve the essence of fairy tales while integrating them into our modern lives. This could mean reimagining old stories for new audiences, or finding ways to weave the magic of fairies into contemporary art, literature, and media. For instance, fairy tales could be given new life through films and books that bring these ancient stories into the present day, offering them as a form of escapism and inspiration. Moreover, as we become more attuned to the environment and seek to reconnect with nature, fairies might find a renewed relevance. They have always been closely linked with the natural world, and as we become more aware of environmental issues, the folklore surrounding fairies can serve as a gentle reminder of the beauty and mystery of the world we live in. Imagine fairies as guardians of the environment, reminding us of the importance of preserving the natural world and respecting its hidden magic. In the future, fairies could also become symbols of cultural heritage, embodying the richness of Irish folklore and traditions. Festivals and celebrations dedicated to fairy lore could become popular, drawing people from all over to experience the enchantment and history of these stories. These gatherings could be more than just celebrations. They could be opportunities to reconnect with ancient traditions and pass on the magic of fairies to new generations. Even as the world changes, the allure of fairies remains a testament to the power of imagination and storytelling. They offer a way to dream beyond the everyday, to imagine a world where magic is real and where the boundaries of reality are pushed. The stories of fairies remind us that, no matter how much the world changes, there is always a place for wonder and mystery. In a future where everything seems to be moving at breakneck speed, fairies could be the whisper of magic that keeps our dreams alive. In the midst of our modern world, with its focus on technology and progress, the stories of fairies provide a glimpse of what it means to believe in something beyond the ordinary. They offer a space where the heart can find solace and the imagination can roam free. As long as there are people who yearn for a touch of magic, fairies will continue to live on, adapting and evolving with the times, but never losing their enchanting essence.